You're listening to WZYE 95.9 FM. You are listening to WZYE 95.9 FM, the most influential name in Caribbean radio in the tri-state area. Broadcasting from East Orange, New Jersey, the most influential name in Caribbean radio, WZYE 95.9 FM.
Apple of thine eye, hide me under the shadow of thy wing, O Lord, my Savior. It's so hard to deal with personal struggle, so sad when you feel alone in your trouble. It's real hard when you want to talk to a brother. It's so bad because of how some look at you after. So Jesus, come and be while you fix it. Come and be while you fix it. Come and be while you fix it. Jesus, come and be. Come and be while you fix it. Come and be while you fix it. Come and be while you fix it. Jesus, come and be. Cover my head. Satan want me dead. Cover my back from human attack. So Jesus, come and be while you fix it. Come and be while you fix it, Jesus. Come and be while you fix it, Jesus. Come and be. People see you smile, but don't hold the hurt that you're feeling. Even as God's child, at times your heart does be bleeding. Where can you go when you're really looking for healing? Who know how to flow when your soul needs some restoring? So Jesus, come and be while you fix it. Come and be while you fix it. Come and be while you fix it, Jesus. Come and be. Come and be while you fix it. Come and be while you fix it. Come and be while you fix it, Jesus. Come and be. Cover me home from evils unknown. Cover my feet so I'll never retreat. Oh Lord, come and be while you fix it. Come and be while you fix it. Come and be while you fix it, Jesus. Come and be. Cover my brother, cover my sister, them who under pressure. Cover the preacher, every church worker, the young believer. Cover the worship leader and intercessor, every gospel minister. Cover. Jesus alone is the one who has the real answer. The one on the throne is the true and loving Father. He will hold your hand and keep you from going under. He will make you stand and let you know He's a fixer. Come and be while you fix it. Come and be while you fix it, Jesus. Come and be while you fix it, Jesus. Come and be. Come and be while you fix it. Come and be while you fix it. Come and be while you fix it, Jesus. Come and be. Cover my mind. You know the struggle sometimes. Cover my mouth, that the wrong thing wouldn't come out. Oh Lord, cover me while you fix it. Cover me while you fix it. Cover me while you fix it.
Truer words were never spoken. The less you associate with some people, the more your life will improve. Anytime you tolerate mediocrity in others, it increases your mediocrity. An important attribute in successful people is their impatience with negative thinking and negative acting people. As you grow, your associates will change. Some of your friends will not want you to go on. They will want you to stay where they are. Friends that don't help you climb will want you to crawl. Your friends will stretch your vision or choke your dream. Those that don't increase you will eventually decrease you. Consider this. Never receive counsel from unproductive people. Never discuss your problems with someone incapable of contributing to the solution. because those who never succeed themselves are always first to tell you how. Not everyone has a right to speak into your life. You are certain to get the worst of the bargain when you exchange ideas with the wrong person. Don't follow anyone who's not going anywhere. With some people you spend an evening. With others, you invest it. Be careful where you stop to inquire for directions along the road of life. Wise is the person who fortifies his life with the right friendships. If you run with wolves, you will learn how to howl. But if you associate with eagles, you will learn how to soar to great heights. A mirror reflects a man's face, but what he is really like is shown by the kind of friends he chooses. The simple but true fact of life is that you become like those with whom you closely associate, for the good and the bad. Note, be not mistaken. This is applicable to family as well as friends. Yes, do love, appreciate, and be thankful for your family, for they will always be your family, no matter what. Just know that they are human first, and though they are family to you, they may be a friend to someone else and will fit somewhere in the criteria above. In prosperity, our friends know us. In adversity, we know our friends. Never make someone a priority when you are only an option for them. If you are going to achieve excellence in big things, you develop the habit in little matters. Excellence is not an exception. It is a prevailing attitude.
Yes.
Truer words were never spoken.
Yes. Let me say a special hello to all the WZYE 95.9 FM listeners, of course, ladies and gentlemen. It's in the village with the DAT Triplets on WZYE 95.9 FM. And of course, we come to you every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday from 7 to 10 p.m. That's Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday from 7 to 10 p.m. And you know how we say it here in the ladies and gentlemen. We originate, we don't imitate. We welcome each and every one. Doesn't matter what color t-shirt you have on. You have on a blue t-shirt, a red t-shirt, a burgundy t-shirt. Doesn't matter what planet you're from Mazatanians, Venerians, Sonarians. Each and every one is welcome in the village with the DAT Triplets on WZYE 95.9 FM. Let me say a special welcome to my partner here, the one and only. My partner. Hold on, let me try something here, Tony. Let me see if this what. Okay, that didn't look much different than this. Let me see something. No, not that one. This one. All right. That is it right there. Yes. So, of course, my partner, no other than the one and only, the man himself, Thomas, the former commissioner in Newark, Thomas E. Marshall Nisbet. Tommy, welcome.
Good evening, my good friend. And it's a pleasure being in the village. You know, I always look forward to the village and the village people. I don't mean it that way, villagers.
Yeah. You know, we always look forward, man. We just enjoy coming here in the village and dealing with our friends and family here in the village. That's how we call it.
Hey, and before we go on, I had to tell you big things going on for other co-hosts
Okay.
in London. She's doing spectacular from what I gathered thus far based on the information that's given to us, to me. I think you probably would have gotten it also.
Yeah. So go ahead, get them the news.
Yeah, she's been honored.
Well, yeah, of course. You know what I mean? That's when you're doing big thing. Big thing are going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, big thing are going. Okay, let me see if I have let me see if I get something here. I don't know if it was a video or something. Was it a video?
Was it a video? I think it was a video and a still. Oh no, there was a. It's the plaque.
Oh, okay. Let me see if I see that. I saw something coming to my phone. There's so much thing that's coming to this phone, I told me, right? I'm gonna go to Messenger and try Messenger. Yeah, so folks, coming up in a few minutes, we have Mrs. Karen Nunes Teixeira, and then we have, our resident expert, resident expert, um,
Dr. Muhammad.
Dr. Mohammed. Yeah. Okay. No, I see that now. I thought I'd get something in Messenger.
WhatsApp.
Yeah, let me try WhatsApp and see. Maybe it's WhatsApp. Here we go. Oh, okay, okay, okay. All right. So here it is. All right. Miss, I could save that. Then I will add it to the screen so I can show you guys that. And then here's the plaque. I can show you the plaque as well. Save that. Then Museum Library one been saved too. Two of them have been saved. Let me open these real quick so we can show you what our esteemed
Veteran New Jersey Senator Robert Menendez is facing a barrage of federal
that's not what we
corruption
want to talk
charges.
about.
This isn't
No, that's not what we want to talk about. We can talk about that too, but go on, tell me something going on. Something going on here. Oh, I know what I did. I know what I did. Let me forward it. Let me forward it. Uh, Forward, forward. Okay. Here it is. Here it is, right. Yes, so Tommy, in the meanwhile, as I save these two things here, um, what's been going on in the street land of TNT, but if it's not the Venezuelan,
You know what? My heart is so heavy today
Hmm,
concerning the murder of those two persons in Rio Claro.
okay.
It's so sad. I think it's a poor or a weak judiciary that causes things like this to happen. It should be a mandatory death sentence to an accused when the perpetrator, no, when the victim or witness winds up dying or being murdered. If they
Hmm,
die naturally, that's one thing. But if they're being murdered, if they've been murdered, it should be an automatic guilty version or verdict rather
hmm,
that's reached when it comes to the accused or the perpetrators, as we can call them.
hmm.
I think that
Well,
should make the accused guilty automatically when
hmm,
the victim winds up dead or the witness winds up dead in a murderous state.
hmm. Tommy, I think that is one of the problems facing Trinidad and Tobago is that the solutions to fix some of the problems that we have in the country. And I guess when you talk about the problems, people just get upset and think that you're bashing the government. You see?
We just talking about the state of the judiciary. It
Hmm,
doesn't matter which government is in there. We have to have
hmm,
stronger enforcement of the laws and stronger laws.
hmm. Correct is right.
That 13-year-old and her uncle were murdered in cold blood.
Hmm. And tell me, what about the four kids
But I'm
in
telling you, every week is another sad story. Is another is something else, something new. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
but in this particular case, where you know that a report was made the same day about that 13-year-old being raped
Hmm,
and being threatened by her perpetrators that if she were to go to the police that they would kill her, and they made good on it. And when you read what the law enforcement is saying, you know, they handling it I don't know. I don't know. Somebody else needs to chime in on this and let me know how they feel about this because it makes my heart feel so heavy.
Yeah, I know the feeling, Tommy, because sometimes it just seems like if it's never ending, you know. It just seems like if it's never ending. But on the screen, ladies and gentlemen, is the Storm Diana Benskin with the King and Queen of Ghana. Uganda,
Uganda.
excuse me. Uganda. She said she's standing amidst royalty, the King and Queen from Uganda. So that is the Storm right there. And let me show you her award now. She received an award, so that's her standing amongst royalty there. And then here is the award that she received. Um, Here it is. Outstanding journalism and literacy. Let me see if I could read this for you all. Outstanding certificate, outstanding journalism and literacy. This certificate is proudly presented to the winner, Diana Benskin. We appreciate your dedication to providing unwavering service to the Caribbean and diaspora community. Your contribution are recognized and appreciated. The date is 9/30/2023. It is Micheline Holder, Marseille Songleg, sole founder and CEO of the Caribbean Global Award, and that's the best award. Okay, there you have it, folks. Caribbean Global Awards, Unity Strength. So Diana won the award, and let's give her a round of applause for that. We must give her a round of applause for that. Must give her a round of applause. Here we go, folks. Yeah, the round of applause coming. Here we go. So there you have it, folks. The Storm being very successful in a journey to the land of the King, United Kingdom.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's how let's go, right? Let's go to the chat
Yes.
quickly. Right. Of course, you know, nothing to of course. But wait now. Nah. Come you see that, boy?
Highly.
Yeah. Highly upset the apple cart. And not once, twice, first and second, Yeah. Yeah. I guess he was sitting down there and waiting, boy. Highly, boy. Let me give Highly a round of applause because I don't know if we ever give him a round of applause. Let me give him a round of applause too. Yeah. Let me give Highly a round of applause too. Yeah, Highly. Okay, there you have it, boy. Highly make his presence felt. All right. So of course, next up was the queen of the village, Nadia.
Nadia Mongo.
Yeah, good night, Nadia. Blessings. Nadia said handsome. Good night. Tommy, good night.
Good night, Nadia.
Yeah. Diana, good night. Hans, Albert, Rennie, Bonnie, Kylie, Ken. Why don't you put GN next to all of them?
Good night.
Yeah, good night. Yeah. Curtis Montreal, boy. My Kenyan friend, boy.
Good
Hey,
night.
look who here, boy. Albert Montano, yes? Albert Montano, like your wife getting back your phone, boy. Special congratulations to the storm. And then we go straight to our guest, eh? Judy says, blessed evening. Mean Jean says, congratulations. Oh, God. Mean Jean says something nice to Diana, boy. I'm telling you, I think it easy. Yeah, I think nice. All right, let's bring in our first guest for the night, no other than Mrs. Karen Nunes Teixeira. Karen,
Another
how are you?
another queen.
Well, good evening to you both. Marshall Nisbet, are you called Tommy E? If I could just ask quickly.
Yes, they call me Tommy. They call me Tommy.
And I want to say this, Tommy, I would just want to say this, and Slim, you
Yeah.
know that a lot of things are going on different levels, and it's because you have been so, um, I have to be loyal to you. That's what I want to say. So you call me, I have to answer.
Well, I appreciate, we appreciate that,
But it's my pleasure. It's always my pleasure. But what I mean is, I make that effort, extra effort, regardless. you know.
no, no,
But I'm happy to be
and it's
here.
appreciated. It goes both ways. You know what I mean?
Thank you, and good evening to all of your listeners,
Hmm.
and of course, good evening to you and Slim Wall Street, and of course, Tommy and Diana. Don't know where she is today.
She's in
Uh,
London.
oh, she's off in London. All right.
We,
I'm
we
happy to
just
hear.
showed what she got. She got an outstanding an award for outstanding work.
Oh, wonderful! Congratulations, sir.
Yeah, yeah. So, so Karen, I
Yes.
think we want to talk about the pre-budget, right?
Yeah.
And when I personally look at the budget, I'm looking at, if maybe about three things I will think of. I will look at, will it address the increase in crime? Will it address high food prices? Will it address some of the difficulties that's being faced with respect to foreign exchange? And we could also look at the levels of energy production in Trinidad and Tobago. So I give you kind of four that me as a person, not as astute as you are, but looking looking at the budget, we'll see, you know, those are four things I can just think of the top of my head. What do you say?
And that's a pretty good assessment of what a person, the manager does it will, which you are certainly not. But what you're saying is the budget is for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And in doing so, you are addressing the main concerns. And it is done through, given, I think, if you don't mind me saying, just for clarity for persons, in terms of what, you hear the word budget, and some people, why the budget? I'm pretty sure about that you can't, but many people can't meet their obligation, financial obligation, unless they get paid a salary. And a business can't operate unless it's doing well enough or the banks are lending their money. And that goes for Trinidad and Tobago, like many countries. So a budget is the way in manner in which the government of the day sells the country what well if you look at it, there's a particular way in which they lay out the budget, but we're not going to go through that. But what they will do is address some of the things that you have said by saying what are the initiatives they're going to take in various areas, and also what economic plans or what plans they have in order to bolster the economy or to deal with matters that's already affecting the economy in a very big way. And they will deal with that. Usually, they will end towards the end, having done that, we will then look at the revenue, which is the potential projected, because you don't have a crystal ball, but you do have a good indication from years gone by. And also, although it's very volatile for us because it's energy, but you have a budget division that's what they do all year round. They look at the market, look at all the figures to kind of come to a indication of what the budget numbers would look like using oil and gas. But it's rarely gas. Oil is just traditional, and there is a relationship. So they look at what the projected gas numbers, natural gas numbers are going to be. And based on that, they come up with the revenue, which is the taxes that the government would expect to collect for the fiscal year, which begins and beginning of October to the end of September the next year. That's the fiscal year. And then they look at the other part, of course, is you've got to have expenditure. You've got to run the country, and you've got to pay for all these projects that you either have on stream or would like to begin, or debts that you have accrued over time, and that will come now your expenditure. And when your revenue and your expenditure are about equal, you're seeing as a balanced budget, which is a not, it's a, it doesn't exactly have a balance. But what you do have is either a deficit, which we have been running certainly since at least 2010, which was a small fiscal deficit, which means your expenditure was more than our revenue take. And that trend has continued except 1 year, 2021, when we had that huge increase in prices in oil and gas. And it was a very, very small surplus. So after you look at that, so you're telling the country, this is the revenue we expect to collect as a government. This is the expenditure that we anticipate we're going to have for the year. Then they do the allocations, and they give allocations for certain ministries that, like national security, as you said, health, education, they do agriculture, they may do tourism, and they do about 8, 10 main ministries. And then they will then tell you the goodies or the bad news, if you want to put it that way, from the ministry's point of view. But along with that, and the government is to be commended on 2 grounds. One, prior to when the budget was read, the budget statement, that's not the budget, because the budget is the Appropriation Act. That is the authority for the government of the day to take money out of what they call the consolidated fund, which is where all revenues are put. And to take it out, you've got to get permission. And permission comes with the Appropriation Act. So the government of the day tells the country, gives an account of what it did for the last year, where their projects have reached, the new projects they want to start. That's transparency and accountability, but it's a legal requirement, because without the Appropriation Act being passed in Parliament after the debate, they cannot go ahead and run the country, which is why you have seen under a former administration, the then Prime Minister had to prorogue the Parliament and call a new election, because 3 of his ministers decided that they were leaving the party, and without their votes, he would not have the necessary votes to pass the act. Now, along with that, what I said I would congratulate the government on this. Normally, when they would read the budget, it was after the budget's presentation. He's presenting. That's not the act, but the presentation, telling the country, giving an account, transparency and accountability, etc. They would then release after what they call the budget documents, which are the estimated revenue and expenditure and other documents, which would have been prepared by the budget division of the Ministry of Finance. And they're now releasing it at the same time online, so you can see them at the same time to see what he's saying lines up with those documents from the technician. So that's a good thing. Another thing they have done, which I didn't realize, and I say that I am glad to their credit, they do much of what I'm not going to go into detail. They actually carry the public through the process of what a budget is, from the call circular to meeting with them, explaining what a transfer, what is a subsidy, debt to GDP. They did do a good job, not as much as I'd like to have seen, but it certainly is much more than we have ever seen from any other administration. So that helps. That's important, because many people do not really, the man in the street oftentimes does not listen to the budget, because they say, they're talking over my head. But they mean real GDP per capita and all these fancy terms. They feel lost. So they tend to look to see what the revenue looks like, what the expenditure looks like. And then they look to see what are the new measures that are being put in place that will affect them. Have they, for example, which I think they're going to have to do, I don't think anybody will be surprised that they're going to raise the NIS age from the current 60 to 65. or maybe 67. Jamaica has done it a few years ago, and so has Barbados done it. I don't know if they will they will give you the date on which it will come into effect. So it may be January. I can't tell, but I feel they are going to do that. They may also do what Barbados also did, was include in the NIS, National Insurance Board, the collection of monies which pay for NIS self-employed persons. Barbados did it. So those are the kinds of things you can expect. They are going to have to address the issue of the fuel subsidy because the government has said, and said it last year, that they were capping these fuel subsidy at $1 billion US. Now, you see, the thing about it is when prices of oil, especially because we don't produce oil anymore, we import all oil, we don't refine any oil. We have this company called Paria that imports oil from other countries and then distributes it, and then even up the islands too, and gets a huge subsidy from the government. He said they were capping it at $1 billion. Last year, that was the statement he made. And yet, I do not think he's going to let you know if that happened, but I suspect it didn't happen. Now that oil is now trending at over $90, and every indication is that it's not going to go back down. Three main reasons that have been given: the ongoing war in Russia and Ukraine, the fact that China, with all the issues, their economy is bouncing back, recovering, and that's a huge market. And also, you live in the United States, the economy is doing pretty well. The fact that your Fed increases the interest rate, that's because they want to temper down inflation. You want people to spend less. It's an indication that there's a lot of money out there and people are anxious to spend money. And spending money a lot of times to manufacture the goods, to put the gas in your car. A lot of people go in on trips within United States now. It means that all of those factors are going to keep that price of oil kind of high. And once it keeps it high and we are no longer refining, the government is going to have to address that subsidy that they said they capped at $1 billion, which may mean that at the when you go to the gas station, which is owned either National Petroleum or can't remember the other name of the other, but it's the state anyhow, you may be paying more for premium gas and paying more for what do you call regular gas. I think they'll be careful with the kerosene because a lot of people, homes, people who are on the lower income thing, they depend on kerosene as a form of energy for food and stuff. And then they may want to be careful with the diesel because the taxi drivers and therefore transportation costs are going to be affected, and therefore inflation is going to go up. I think they're going to have to address that. They are going to also sing the praises, rightfully, but not really. I mean, it's not really. The government wants to build confidence. I think they lost it a long time ago, honestly, because you can't be giving revenue and expenditure numbers that are wrong so often, and you cannot also be not giving natural gas production numbers correct so many times. And so after a while, I think a lot of the chambers, a lot of persons listen to what the minister, with all due respect, minister, there has been the confidence that should be there when you speak about what the government is going to do, because of past experience, and you go back to budgets. There's so many, I call it the government of we are going to, so many projects, major projects, you just simply have not come near to where you should have reached by now. Now, having said that, and I'm going to deal with the energy because it is what we depend on. When I say that, to be fair to any government, and this government is included, when you come every year to the Parliament and give an account of where you've reached your allocation of your funds, national security, health, these are the big ticket items. There's also, I should say, there's another document called estimates. And estimates is a very long document with a lot of expenditure, over billions of dollars, which are not included in the Appropriation Act. Where you get any money from? So this government is finding itself in a situation where it's every year not being able to reach its expenditure level, which means in order to spend all they have to spend, they have to raise money and do that. Like any business, you go to the market to raise money to finance it. So we are going out there quite a bit to finance the deficit. And that's not a, if America does that, as a point I always make, if America does that, or Canada does that, or some of the more powerful European countries like Germany and so on, it runs a few years of deficits. It's not the same thing as us, as we, because they have strong economies. So if they go to their bankers know that, okay, this year was a bad year, next year might be another bad year, but you have a very strong economy and it's growing well. We have our growth of our economy has declined by 20% since 2015. And that is where the IMF and World Bank says. And you look at the other Caribbean countries that went through the same thing we went through with COVID, and their recovery after COVID, which is the next year, 2021, was spectacular. And I'm not talking about Ghana. I never include Guyana because Ghana is really an outlier. I mean, it is spectacular considering that they are subject to climate change much more than we are because they depend on tourism so much. And yet they bounce back significantly. And we can't say that for us. And you have to ask yourself why. And the answer has to be is the prices are were very, very high, but yet the revenue is not there. And that's because we just don't have the natural gas production. So,
but Karen, the man on the street, right?
Yes.
The man who are at the bottom of the ladder, the man who are in the sub basement. What
God, don't
that
put him
man
down
or
there
woman.
Just put him in the basement now. God.
All right. In the basement. The man in the basement need to know after this budget,
Yes.
right? Over the past 5 years, food prices have increased 30 to 34% in Trinidad and Tobago, right? Anywhere between there. The man on the street wants to know, as Black Stallion says, sufferers only want to know where your neck plate of food coming from. He wants to know if after this budget comes out, am I going to have to pay more for food? Am I going to have to pay more for gas? And is this budget going to help stem the increase in crime in the country?
Okay, so that's exactly right. So I think I try to address, because I don't have a crystal ball, and I'm not the government. And when they said that they were going to cap the subsidy, because they do subsidize our oil, which is when you put gas in your tank or diesel in your maxi taxi, or if you have a diesel vehicle, they have already reduced, and therefore those prices have gone. If I reduce the subsidy on something, it means I'm making you have to pay more. So that is something that we are going to have to listen to, and there's an indication that is going to happen. When it comes to food, the economists have said, since they used 2015 as the base year, I cannot tell you the exact reason why, but definitely the food inflation alone has gone up, according to the economists, and it may be more now, over 45%. So if you were paying whatever you were paying in 2015 for a bag of pound of tomatoes, you're paying 45% more. So the man in the street who has a very limited budget and has it doesn't have what they call disposable income. They have to deal with things like eating, traveling, paying, sending children to school, paying for rent and so on. They are going to be concerned. So when you talked about food, one of the things the government should do now, he's going to give a very cheerful thing, because he always does that, which is also a bit disturbing to me, that he won't be a level with the people and always come and tell you the worst case scenario of the worst thing that ever happened, just show how things are not that bad, or tell you the worst country and so we're not that bad. But when it comes to the food issue, I imagine some of the things they may want to do, I don't have the crystal ball. The central bank already said that about 2 years ago, that we are spending $5 billion a year on importing of food. There's so much food that you go in the supermarket, it's frozen there, that they probably have to throw it out. And a lot of times you see them doubling up things and giving you it's at a much giving you two for the price of one because the expiry date is so close, which means that people just can't afford it, especially dairy products. So they're going to have to address that. And one of the things, in my opinion, we have a large population who do not eat meat. It may be because of religious reasons or whatever reasons they decide they don't eat meat. So if you will, to me, agriculture should really be given a big boost. And it's not just in the allocation of how much, because all governments, even when we were in our office, I mean, I didn't know what else grants you could give in the agricultural sector. You really have to do something far more to stimulate the agro industry, which will not only, they always talk about a small, medium, they have to include the micro, and it has to be a plan where you're working together, in my view, with the Ministry of Agriculture, the Faculty of Agriculture in Trinidad, and other key players, as I've always used the Netherlands, because they are about one of the leaders, and they have many of the problems we have, to address the issue of planning and flooding, which are some two of the main areas in why prices of a lot of our produce increases. We also may have actually now considered seriously working together with countries like Guyana, which has huge land space, a population less than 1 million, that you can get into an arrangement like what England used to do to us. England never grew tea, but they used to drink a lot of tea got from India. So, but we're not exploitative. Have some sort of relationship with our CARICOM community that we have a good manufacturing sector. We are pretty sophisticated, and maybe we have some sort of relationship that we stop importing a lot of items that we really should not be importing. I mean, how many cheeses you're going to import? How many varieties of yogurt you're going to import? How many varieties of bread you're going to import? It's not realistic because it's costing money. So they may look temper down on that. They may look at creating more rare relationships with CARICOM countries, including the Eastern Caribbean, and using, as they have already started doing, encouraging people to use sweet potato chips, use our own cassava chips, which are far nicer than Irish potato any day. And people do like if it's done well and produced well and branded well and marketed well. I feel they're going to do more of that. And I feel they should, if they haven't done it. They are the high-end products. I would call it the escargots, which is the fancy snails and all those fancy things, and the brie cheese and all of that. They should not be paying the same VAT as the man in the street has. They have to pay just to survive. If you want to eat brie and you want it means that you can afford to do it. And if you can afford to do it, you pay a higher VAT because that's the revenue the government depends on, and also really stimulate the agro industry by producing high-end agro products, not low-end. Things like high-end chocolates. We are known for what they call it Trinitario chocolate. We are known for our Trinitario chocolate. I won't go into details, but a person explained what we can do, and I'm not going through that. But a lot of it is branding and marketing, producing high-end rum-based products so that we can go to the market and go into the Harrods and the European market with our products in the agro industry and also produce some more food for ourselves. Look at the issue of flooding, which is Holland has done, so you can learn from Holland. 53% of their land is underwater. Reduce the flooding and insist on the planning, because when people build next to rivers, next to the water courses, and the rain comes down, you have to shut down a lot of there's a name for it. I can't remember the name of it, but then and manage and maintain the equipment that make sure that you can get the water out as quickly as possible. So I think they need to talk more about how they're going to deal with the food inflation and what measures they're going to put in place to address it in a real way, at the same time deal with encouraging the micro enterprise to get more opportunities, not just in NetCo, but in a very real way to contribute to the country. So that, because the whole world has suffered from food inflation. Trinidad is not alone. It's the whole world. the whole world, because of the Ukraine thing with the grain, with the whole argument thing with Russia not exporting their grain, and it is an international issue. The difference is, of course, two differences. Most of these countries have food security, meaning that even if they didn't have foreign exchange to buy food, they still could survive. And secondly, the government subsidize a lot of their products, like the wheat and so on. So the government is going to have to do more on the agro industry side for the micro entrepreneur to reduce our food bill. They've got to stop allowing so many franchises into the country. As a matter of fact, they have to cut them back and not renew it. So those are the measures I think will help to reduce the cost of food and encourage people to eat more local, and also encourage the micro and small business person, which they are doing already, to start their small businesses and produce by selling food at a cheaper rate. So these are kinds of things I expect to hear them deal with things. And they are going to tell you that food inflation is a global problem. So it's not our problem only. So we're going to have to hear that. What they're going to do about it, those are things I think: reduce the import bill, planning and development, do more so that the flooding doesn't cause the farmers to increase the price of tomatoes and baygon and the things that we eat on a daily basis. Many of us could do without the meat. Many people could do without the meat, actually. And I think, and also address the poor. That's what I think they will do when it comes now. So those are the two things they're going to look at. I don't think they're going to be too many goodies, because they just can't have the goodies. I think the government has reached a stage and reached it a good while ago, but now it's really obvious. It's become more obvious that we are borrowing and borrowing to keep our heads above water. In other words, the economy has not grown. It's like you having a business, your business is not growing. So what you're doing, you're going out to borrow. How much are you going to borrow? How are you going to continue borrowing? You've got to then start producing other things in order to reduce your borrowing and to create other avenues to earn foreign exchange. Because I don't know if you know, but the central bank did publish that the 9.8 that we've been hovering for the last few years, after being 14 point something billion in foreign exchange reserves just a few years ago, we lost 400 million US in foreign exchange in a matter of a few months. On top of that, Republic Bank cut the amount you can order by way of your credit card in half. And that's because people can't get cash in the bank. So they go to Amazon.com and all these other .com and order, and the government has to pay because they would lose their ratings, and it will affect their ability to borrow on the market in a number of ways. So when you see the Republic Bank cutting their credit card by half, when you see the central bank has to come out and tell you in a matter of a few months, we've lost US $400 million. And you have the prime minister, I call him prime minister because he's behaves like that. When the minister of finance comes and makes a nice story, as he always does, they went back out to the market with the 7-year sovereign bond. Sovereign bond means a government bond. The bonds are how you raise money for big projects, right? The $1 billion you're talking about, which is oversubscribed, 3 times oversubscribed. He's not telling you that bond, meaning that the principal, the money that you borrowed, was due next year. And now the interest rate, which is called the coupon rate in the world of bonds, he increased it significantly over the US. Why? To attract persons to buy our bonds. So somebody could say, well, the fact that the bonds were bought does not say something good about our economy, but that, I think, is part of the issue. What I believe the government has used a lot has been the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, that's not the purpose of it. But he has said it. He said we get it because when the Standard & Poor's and Fitch and Moody's look at the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, which I think is about US $5 billion now, which is invested mostly in stocks and bonds abroad or where, not in the local market. Not primary, I don't think much in any event. But when you combine the HSF and the foreign exchange reserves, when you put them together, it looks as though the bondholders, people who lend us the money, say, well, even if things crash tomorrow, we are sure that we'll get back our money because the government has enough between the HSF and the foreign exchange to pay us back. But that's not a good look. It shouldn't be that you're using it to borrow money, because it's telling me that you're remortgaging, you're refinancing your mortgage, which is telling me you don't have enough money, you're spending more than you're making. And that's not a good look. So even when he tries to make that sound good, it's not good. All the other signs are there, and then the other thing that he used, if I could say for the man in the street, when he said GDP, which I've said on your show many times, that's the total of the gross of all the value of the goods and services that your country produced in 1 year. It's usually the fiscal year, right? But we don't. It's the revenue from that the government gets. It's the taxes from that makes up the country's revenue. So when you hear the GDP, you have to look at what they call. I hope you don't mind me just saying this, just for people to really understand.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
When they listen on Tuesday, and the government has done some of what I'm telling you, all right? To be fair to them, there's nominal GDP, which is all the goods and services, regardless of prices went up. And we are energy economy, and we are bust and boom because oil and gas prices can go up and down. So we're really subject to the volatility of the price of what we rely on to give us our revenue. In fact, the Ministry of Energy says 45% of our gross domestic production for the country is 45%. And then you think of all the other businesses that rely on that. If it's not doing well, restaurants close down, and so on and so on and so on and so on. So the nominal GDP is, without doing anything, price of oil went up, but we're using that number. When we take the real GDP, which is where you see where there's no growth, that shows you where there's no growth. The real GDP is when you take out how the inflation, increase in the price of that product, has increased what you call the value of your goods and services. And I always use the foolish example, maybe foolish, but I could make the point. I don't know why I choose mangoes. So you were producing in 2020 5 mangoes. You never had any say about, we are price takers, not makers. So the international market was in a slump. So all you were getting for your mangoes, which is what you relied on as your main source of revenue, and your gross, that's what is the major product you're producing, is $2 in 2020 for each mango. Through nothing to do with you, geopolitical, whatever, that same mango has gone up to $300. And guess what? You're not producing 5 mangoes anymore. You're producing 4, just like how they close on Atlantic Train 1. You close it down. Nikwan cannot operate, and they take them to court to the Privy Council. The argument on the government side is you owe us over 21 million US by now for the gas that we have provided you for the gas to liquid project, which is a good project, which had the potential to increase a number of foreign investment because you're producing cleaner energy for kerosene and for certain energy products. So it was a good thing. But what happened with Nikwan? Nikwan had 2 big accidents, a major thing, and then a young man died. And now the governments, they said they're ready to go, but the government said, we're not giving you the gas because they don't have the gas to give you. Plus you owe them money. Plus the bond holders, the people out there in the market who can give you money, had lost faith in your product thing, within your undertaking, because you can't raise the money. So they've gone to the Privy Council. So you have Nikwan as a sad story right now. And then on top of that, the Prime Minister himself has said that all the deep water rounds, they talk about deep water bid, meaning you're taking a greater chance, a greater expense, because it costs much more money to drill deeper down in the seabed or whatever is involved, and then you come up with a dry well. So billions lost. Your shareholders not going to be happy. Out of the 17 deep water bid rounds, only 3, but it might be 4, but I think 3 were taken up. That says a lot of lack of confidence in us, because there's so much natural gas all over the world now. They don't have to come to us. They could go elsewhere. And after the Ukraine thing, other countries are now going into the LNG business. So when you see Nekwa not suing the government, when you see that the company like Colibri, Cassia, Zanduli, all of these different entities that are producing the gas, bringing gas to the wellhead, it's not enough. The Prime Minister has admitted as much. He has said that if the Point Lisas and Atlantic LNG, which is how we're making our money, and they want to expand it into ingots, making ingots, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. If you want to expand it, you need an energy, you need a feedstock, and that feedstock is going to be the natural gas. And he has come out, he has said it in September 2022, said the situation, if we don't get more investment in the natural gas field, we are in dire circumstances. So the fact that Nekwan has done that, the fact that the small Colibri, Cassia, Zandoli, and others are producing or will be producing some level of natural gas, is simply not enough, because we right now, we need 4.2, I think, billion cubic feet per day for all our needs, and it's only 1.7. That's a very sad situation. So since you asked about energy, he's going to report and give us glowing report about the Dragon field. And I understand the desperation of the government, but they brought themselves that way. If you saw it down the line, you don't have to go around a corner to see it, and you don't have to go to Yesenia Gonzalez to give you what's going to happen. You are a businessman, you run a business. You know that is what you're relying on to feed your family, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, is a product not only has boom and bust, but now it's a mature fields that we have. And therefore, that even if the prices went up as they did in 2021, you still didn't make much money, much revenue. Why? Not because you didn't have the taxes, but because you didn't have the gas. And so the two things that they are now relying on was the Manatee and Dragonfield. And I want to say, before I go to Dragonfield, because people have to have a wake-up call. And I want the government to do well, because I want our country to do well. But, stop talking as if pigs could fly, because you're not helping your country when you do that. The foreign investor is listening and hearing, and he's reading all the data from World Bank and IMF standards, Moody's and Fitch. They're not going to, he's a politician talking. They're going to look at the estimates and so on. So with Manatee and the solar project, those are two good examples of why we should be concerned before I go to Dragonfield.
So Karen, hold it there for 1 minute, all right? We want to go for a quick station identification.
Okay, all right. And then I explain it
Karen,
after.
Yeah, just for the listener's perspective, when you talked about nominal and
right.
and real GDP, nominal GDP, you said this, but I just want to make sure the listeners understand. Nominal GDP is the total value of goods and services produced in a country in a given year, and it's measured at current market prices. Real GDP, on the other hand, is the total value of goods and services produced in a country in a given year. However, it's adjusted for inflation.
We said it lovely, and I tried to use the mango example.
Right. So then they could kind of understand.
Very, very, very well said. And you see why he's a teacher. Said it very well, and that's exactly. So they must listen, and then you have to go to GDP per capita.
Right.
Very important. Another thing they don't like to talk about at all. They used to do it.
So wait, Karen, hold that thought right there. Let's go for a quick station identification. We'll be right back. It's in the village with the DAT Triplets on WZYE 95.9 FM. We have with us former Minister of Finance, Mrs. Karen Nunes-Teixeira. Stick and stay. We'll be right back after this short message. It's in the village with the DAT Triplets on WZYE 95.9 FM.
You're listening to WZYE 95.9 FM. You are listening to WZYE 95.9 FM, the most influential name in Caribbean radio in the tri-state area. Broadcasting from East Orange, New Jersey, the most influential name in Caribbean radio, WZYE 95.9 FM.
back with you. It's in the village with the DAT Triplets on WZYE 95.9 FM. We come to you every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday from 7 to 10 p.m. That's Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday from 7 to 10 p.m. If you also want, you can send us your voice messages at 973-609-6509, 973-609-6509. And you might have a question for Karen. You could either put it in the chat or you could call and ask her the question. And Karen, I also want you to address if you see a wage increase, but we have to be careful with a wage increase,
Right.
because that may create high inflation.
Exactly.
Right? So we can address that. And but go ahead with the humanity.
And I want to say first, I hate when we were in government. You know, there was so many haters. They could never find anything. They just were looking for everything they could possibly say that you did wrong. You know, and you know, I don't want to be the armchair critic or the person who is the naysayer. I don't want to be that person, but I want to be the realist. And you know, whatever your party affiliation is, that's your choice. But I don't want to say that you made a decision and you didn't know what you were doing. You know, it has to be that you know, but this is your decision, right? So as we were talking about GDP, two other things that we really need, and the inflation comes into GDP per capita, is when you take those, suppose all the goods and services in a particular fiscal year, it's usually fiscal year, is let's say $200 billion. You then per capita, it means per head. So when they break it up between a population of 1.4 million people, Trinidad looks pretty good in the so-called developing countries. But I'm not going to do all the maths, but it may be, let's say it ends up to be 15,000 US per person. And that is, compared to a lot of the other countries, looks good. But it's not correct, because there'll be a lot of these people who are very poor who can't feed their children. They want to know where that $15,000 are because they haven't seen it. And so that's very misleading in the sense that what the government needs to tell people, but they don't want to, because then they will have to show how unfair, how unequal the society is what they call the Gini coefficient, which really shows the distribution of the income in the country among the population. And what you will find out, I am pretty certain, I wish they would give it to us, that the the billions that were produced, you may very well find that 5% of the population is enjoying about 60 or 40 or 50% of that GDP, and the rest spread among the rest of the population. So that's something you have to look for. They won't talk about Gini, but they will say the GDP per capita, which will make you think, oh, 50, how come I not seeing it in my bank account? That's why you're not seeing it. And to answer your question, you talked about inflation and the increase in salaries. And last budget, because I went and I tried to read all of them, and there's a certain trend with our minister. And I think as really not being, anyway, he said that we are prepared only to give the 4%. Then he said the unions are asking for 19%. I'm pretty certain the union in negotiation, don't ever expect 19%, but he used that as a figure. And then there's always back pay, because that always usually happens in negotiations, usually going back 2 periods of back pay, which is 3 years in a collective agreement. And he then did the maths. And he said, if we were to give them the 19% they're asking for, and then we look at the back pay, they would bankrupt the country. So I think he's trying to build a case for the 4%. Because you are right, once the persons are making more, bigger salaries, it looks good on the face of it. But if the economy is not growing, what is going to happen is that the persons who those who manufacture things, and most of them who just retail things in this country, they're going to say, oh, you have more money to spend, you get back pay, increase my prices. They increase the prices and you pay for it. And as you increase prices, the cost of living goes up. And your purchasing power, which is the inflation, but that's what it does. It affects your power to purchase. So that if you were working for $5,000 in 2016 and it was a good salary, but since then food has gone up by 45% and you have to eat. Transportation has gone up. Rent has gone up. You don't have a good job, or jobs they're not good paying jobs because there's no foreign investment and so on. That $5,000 in reality comes as though you're working for $3,000 and you still have to buy food and pay rent and etc. So when you ask me about what the government is going to offer, I think they're going to more or less stick to their guns with the 4%. Now, I did see some companies give 10%, and so people are afraid when they see that is sending a wrong message. But the government is also going to do a lot of retrenching, because one place they're doing it is going to be WASA, because they just got a loan from IDB and they're releasing it in tranches, and they use a nice word called restructuring. Anytime you see that word restructuring, it means retrenching, and it's because there are too many people. And that is the criticism, let me just say, that they've made about the government getting involved in what should be private entities running it, is because, of course, there's the social and political patronage that goes with it, which causes you to employ more than you need, and allow a lot of things, a lot of inefficiencies because of the political dimension. At the same point in time, one of the things that we have, because of that same reason, it's like a double-edged sword. Reason why our manufacturing sector, and I'm not talking about oil and gas and petrochemicals, which they now call manufacturing. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what we send up the islands and what we produce, with a lot of input from importing a lot of the what is put into that product. One of the reasons that they can keep the prices down is because the price of our water and electricity compared to other countries in in manufacturing is much lower, which gives us a competitive advantage.
Correct.
And but a criticism that has been made is that whilst people say that the workers, there's low productivity in the workers, they also say that very fact causes the owners of manufacturing sector. I'm saying generally. Please TTM me. I'm not criticizing you. I don't know enough, and you can speak on it. And I would be happy to have somebody on when I have my show to come and talk about it and educate me even more. But what this can happen is that the manufacturer can also become lazy himself, because if he feels that the water is going to be cheap, the electric is going to be cheap, major inputs into manufacturing, and my other competitors in the region can't even begin to compete with me, including the fact that our money to the US is worth much less than their money, it can cause a little bit of an apathy and a slim lack of productivity from the manufacturers themselves. So it's a two-edged sword. So you asked me what I expect the employment, what they're going to say. I think the government is going to stick to its guns, because they can't, I really don't think they can afford to do otherwise. Things are not cheerful as they would like it to seem. An example would be, they were hoping, you see, that's part of this is where I really do criticize them. I don't care how you feel. I'm trying to be as fair as I can be. I think my major criticism of the government is that you see in the road not bent, it's straight. You are the chief executive officer, the head of the company. We are the shareholders. You see in it straight ahead of you. And therefore, that we have to earn foreign exchange. You can't continue to just produce one or two this product when the major thing to produce that product, you're not producing enough and are unlikely to be able to do that for a number of years. What are you going to do in those years in between? Since 2015, when you're red and ready, because that's what the government said, you should have been going down that road. You would not have reached the end of the road, but you would have seen the progress, like Holland, Mauritius, a lot of countries. And I haven't seen that here in this government. And that's where I will fault them for not doing that. They did not do it, and the writing was on the wall. It wasn't anything they couldn't understand that was going to happen. And therein lies the fault. And to really bring that point home, finally, as to why maybe they will stick to their guns on the 4%. They may stick to their guns on the subsidy for the oil. They will, as the energy chambers has encouraged them to do more, to encourage more investment in the deep water rounds. They didn't do it for a whole decade, almost. They will try to encourage them to go into what they call green energy more. There's indication that they are going to do more of that, but those things take years and time, and what's going to happen in the meantime. And the indication of that, which is what worries me, is Manatee. Manatee was the Lauren Manatee, which was Venezuelan Trinidad waters. So they split it in two, and because for whatever the reasons were, since 2019 they split it. And Shell was supposed to develop the Manatee gas fields, which was on our side, which was much less than the Lauren, which is on the Venezuelan side. But the sad part about it, and the worrying part about it, is that the Prime Minister said with a lot of conviction that by 2024, he expected that we would be getting natural gas at the wellhead in 2024. We are not even come near that. There was an article, I could call it because he wrote it and it's in the paper, so why am I not calling the name? He's very well known who talks on is a subject matter expert on the energy sector. Curtis, why am I forgetting Curtis' last name? Curtis, please forgive me because I shouldn't even just be using your first name. But he did an article just about a week ago, and now we find out with humanity, and it has to be worrying. They have not even gotten the certificate of environmental clearance. And this is Shell International. They're not going to, their share was not going to not allow us to allow them to go ahead. They don't even have that. And the other thing Curtis said was that the final decision whether to go ahead with the Manatee project has not yet been made. Now, it may be made, but that we are nearly at the end of 2023, and the gas was supposed to be ready in 2024, and they don't even have the environmental clearance certificate or the final decision to go ahead. So if you're having problems with Manatee, which was still not going to give us enough, but it was a fillip, going to be more than what we're getting from Cassia and Colibri and all of them. What say you about Dragonfield? You know, what are there's an agreement to agree. There's no agreement in tone that they're going to, that we're going to get the natural gas. Maduro is for Maduro in no uncertain terms, as all countries are for their own people. And although Maduro has turned to natural gas for a number of reasons, one, it's not subject to PDVSA, which is state-owned. So Biden has said he's not going to relent on the food instead of or goods instead of money, which is what Venezuela really needs, unless they're free and fair elections. Meanwhile, they're fighting in Georgia over that, the rigged, so-called rigged elections, which have been proven not to be true. But I cannot see that Maduro is going to give in to that, because he's not going to want anyone to take over as a leader of Venezuela. And when they put on the maximum pressure with Guaido, the army stayed with him. So now money is money, as I have said. Maduro, with a lot of the big European countries who do not want to be subject to the vagaries of Russia and being held hostage, they are turning to the natural gas, which Venezuela has trillions of cubic feet of natural gas. But the arrangement now is a co-investment, a stakeholder arrangement. So I'm pretty certain that the deal that our Minister of Energy was able to get was the work of Maduro turning to natural gas, the Europeans wanting us to partner with them, or we want to partner with them, they had more power than us, to now turn to natural gas. But that still doesn't get rid of the problem with building the pipeline, which is 70 kilometers, which Shell cannot build as long as Biden and US says no. So I'm not sure how they're going to get around it. I don't know if, for example, I have said they might build an LNG port in Venezuela, and they would then export it on the specially built ships, because we are the experts on that. And when we were in government under Mr. Manning, and I always say we, but when I was government under Mr. Manning, 80% of the US needs in LNG came from Trinidad. They use it for their buses and trains. So I'm not quite sure how they're going to get that natural gas down to the point 14 where the Atlantic LNG is, or how they're going to use it in the Port Lisa's industrial estate, which they want to expand, and so many companies have mothballed. How they're going to give Nike one, or I don't know what's going to happen with Nike one. I don't quite know how they're going to do it. But one thing I feel is part of the deal, which is very disturbing to me, and I'm said it on another show, I'm saying it here. So keep the tape, because don't remember I said this, Remember I said this. It's for quite a while. I have been very concerned about the way in which the unregulated Venezuelans are walking into this country, jumping on a boat and coming in here. And we are a small country of 1.3, 1.4 million people. We are struggling now with our economy, at least for the next few years. And even to show that how poor the planning is, the solar panel plant that Shell was supposed to have started in 2018, they just got the license the other day. And the reason for that was so that they could divert the electricity that has to go for domestic first, to divert it to the Point Lisas and Atlantic LNG and use the solar energy for domestic use. And they have just got the license. Don't you see Manatee, Dragonfield, solar? Don't you see a pattern there? You're not seeing a pattern? There is a pattern. Wake up. You don't want to hear it. And this is what I'm saying to you. I have said it before and I stopped talking about it because I got tired of saying it on a particular platform. I said we cannot be allowing the unregulated Venezuelans into our country like this. They are not CARICOM. They are not English speaking. They have, some people have used the term, Salvin Kajo uses it on one of my shows, imperialistic tendencies of wanting to control not Central America. They want the geopolitical for the war that they're fighting. They want to get 2/3 of Guyana and say that this award that was made, arbitral award made in 1899, is no good, so that Exxon or whoever else can get 2/3 of a CARICOM country's land space because it's full of natural gas in the river and in the seas. This is what Venezuela is doing against a CARICOM country. This is the same Venezuela with PetroCaribe that gave a lot of the CARICOM countries gas at a very reduced price and a very generous terms, which caused our Prime Minister at the time, Patrick Manning, and Barbados did not go along to start that fuel. He didn't go to a company, but a fuel facility, and to lend to our Caribbean brothers and sisters. And one of the first recipients of that was Dr. Gonzalez, Ralph Gonzalez, who got his first $100 million US for his new airport that is functioning from that fund from Trinidad and Tobago. And he has a picture of him in the departure lounge. It's caused someone who is well placed to have told me this. Well placed. I don't like to say things that talking, that kind of old talk. I don't want to be irresponsible. And I think they know what they're talking about. They're saying there are more Venezuelan women giving birth at Mount Hope than Trinidadian women. It is a train wreck and accident with Yama. It is going, and look, they had some competition the other day. I'm not giving my opinion on it at all. She withdrew because I guess it was so much uproar from the national community that this young lady, beautiful young lady, who had only been in Trinidad 5 years, I'm sure she speaks English fluently, but with an accent, can represent Trinidad and Tobago. You think you could ever do that? I mean, 5 years you're here? It was such an uproar that I just read today that the person who was the runner-up, who is from Trinidad, and the reason is that they said they cannot get sponsors for her. She said that's what they told her, that the sponsorship to take her to the competition, people are withdrawing their sponsorship support. But that is an indication. You must look at the amber light flashing, Don't wait till the red light come on, That happened. I don't want to give the example in the World War II thing. I don't want to use that example. But all the amber light was flashing and flashing and flashing, and everybody said, nah, man. The amber light flashed until it turned red. I am pretty confident because the about 2 years ago, I don't know if you call him a consul general, whoever represents Venezuela. I read it in the papers myself, where he said that, yes, we migrants, yes, we're Trinidad, of course we want to do the dragon field, but we have to let the migrants in. They're coming in like if they own in Trinidad, they go to the hospital. We are paying for the doctors and the hospitals. They're getting the CDAP, they're not paying for it because you don't have to show nationality. And what about the NIS? Are they contributing NIS? NIS is nearly about to go broke. That's why I say they have to raise the age. But we had to anyhow. But that's not helping. And then when they talk about the unemployment rate being 4.7%, as if it's a good thing, and trying to say that's because the Trinidadians don't want to work. There's something called the labor participation rate. You go to CSO, it's right there. They say the real number you have to look at is the labor participation rate. And our labor participation rate used to be 60-something%. Now it's 54%. And mostly among the women. When you get that 54%. And you have to ask yourself, why are women or why is our population not going out there? Because they get to the unemployment rate based on the labor participation rate. So if your labor participation rate, that is people who can participate, not people who are retired, students, they're not included, or disabled persons are not included. Why is it is so low? Is it because they are unemployed, they aren't getting a living wage? Is it because their jobs in a country? We're not America, we don't have the space. We're not Canada, we don't have the space. We don't have the wealth of these countries. We just don't have it. I mean, I understand the minister's position in the sense that you had to make, I'm just assuming that you would have had to make some negotiations to give in on some things as you're not going to get the gas. But you're going to pay the price down. Maybe you're no longer be in power, so it wouldn't matter as much. But you have that amber light flashing because there are a lot of Trinidadians who are very angry about the number of unregulated Venezuelans in this country. You cannot go anywhere in Trinidad. I'm sorry to say that. I do not dislike Venezuelans. We always had Venezuelans here. I think a lot of people in Trinidad can tell you their grandfather from Venezuela. This is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the impact it is having on our socio-economic fabric to the point that it can create a level of resentment and distress that could be avoided. You do not want to buy that kind of problem. You do not want to buy it. And I suspect, though I have no proof of it, that one of the conditions of the Dragonfield deal, which is still a deal to an agreement to agree, which if you are a lawyer, you know that's not an agreement, is that you've got to let these unregulated Venezuelans come in. And when they say they're working in the construction industry, you look in the papers, how many times you're reading about Venezuelan women involved in some prostitution ring or being held at a club involved in activity which is not legal. How many times you read about even Venezuelans killing each other, they're getting into a fight with each other? How many times are you going to read about them being involved in things that are not good for the country and are coming from Venezuela, which is known as a major transshipment point for cocaine and guns to Europe and America? So I said it before, and the person said, no, Trinidadians don't want to work. These people want to work. Please, there's a price to that. You cannot be so short-sighted or myopic. You cannot just look at today. You are, first of all, you are not running the country. You are not responsible for all the citizens. You're not responsible for the 5% and the people who want the easy way out, and the clubs and the whatever that want the Venezuelan girls working there because they're attractive and the men like to see them and therefore the business do bad. That is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to every citizen of this country. And when you see that amber light flashing and you're pretending you're not seeing it, my position is that I believe that I do not know what the terms are. I believe that the minister may have had to agree to that because Maduro would have said that's one of the things that he needs to be agreed to, I believe. but it should never have reached to that point, because we should have all those years gone by started looking at other alternatives for foreign exchange. The TTIFC, we should have started it in a serious way. We restarted it in a serious way. We should have gone with the agro industry and do high-end products that we can market to the Harrods of this world. And we could also have done and create more food security and lower our food bill, reduce the number of franchises that we allow in this country that are contributing to the non-communicable diseases and the health sector, the bills that the health sector has to face and we as a country have to face, and the low wages that are paid, and what education is required. These people are working midnight shifts. A lot of them are young women. How could that be right? I just don't understand it. I do not understand it.
Karen, with that in mind, right? Somebody asked a question: what happened to diversification? And then
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. I saw the question by the person, so I said, that's very relevant to what.
Right. So I didn't want to use the word diversity because the Prime Minister allegedly has said diversification. I'm tired of hearing that word. So I deliberately didn't use that word because it's really not diversification. Sometimes people hear it and it doesn't mean anything to them. And I understand it doesn't mean anything to them, like saying inflation too. Inflation means your purchasing power is reduced, so that $5,000 come like $3,000. You're in trouble. Okay? So the middle class is disappearing. Diversification, when I use the words that I've chosen to use, is to say that if you own a shop, I've said this in another thing, but I find it's just a simpler way to explain it. If you own a small business and the business you own, I'm going to stick to my mango and bicycles, okay? When I think of another example, I'll use it. But you have a bicycle store, but the bicycles you're selling are coming from abroad. You're not making them here, and the prices are not being set by you. So 1 year, it's doing real good. The business is doing real good in churn. Who are the people of Trinidad and Tobago? Are very happy with you. Because guess what, Daddy? Because government has a social contract with its citizens for safety, security, which the crime is out of control. And that's another whole story that we can do. But you see, to deal with the crime,
that will be addressed in the budget, though, right?
That'll be a separate thing, but it does impact because, of course, when you hear little children being murdered, when you hear these things, as a foreign investor, and you want to attract people to come here and invest they're looking at all the markers. And a big marker, if you want to go in tourism, which I am a big proponent of, cultural tourism particularly, and using the pan, or the festival, so many that we have that are Trinidad, and that we can do that others can't. Maybe with Jamaica, look how well they do it up to a point, but we have something the rest of them don't have. And we haven't done anything in a serious way except open up a pan yard in one place and then go up in Paramin and take a picture. What kind of approach is that? That kind of, it's not coherent. No, I don't have to blame the minister because the minister has a budget, and the government, the Prime Minister or whoever are the movers and shakers in the cabinet. I can tell you they will be. They might say, tourism, we ain't dealing with that now. Right now, Stuart, deal with the energy. Right? So I can't say why they haven't done, but they haven't done it. So you have a bicycle shop, and 1 year doing well, the next year, boom and bust, boom and bust. How many times you're going to let that happen until you or your child, us, say, Daddy, find this thing not making sense. We can't continue like this. The thing you're selling out there for us to be able to live and to be able to buy medicine, that's what you need it for. Anybody taking your monopoly money? Nobody taking it. They want U.S. currency. With all the de-dollarization, the BRICS, which is thing is happening as we speak, it has not come to pass as yet. So they want the U.S. dollar. They don't. Even our Eastern Caribbean country, brothers and sisters, don't want our money. They pay us in U.S. dollars. They will even take Barbados money. They don't want our money.
But
so you tell Daddy.
Yeah.
So just finish the point. So you say, is it a time that we start selling other things or producing other things because we can't continue seeing it in front of us. But this government has failed to do that, and that is my greatest criticism of them. Is the government of we are going to do.
Karen, we
let me welcome Dr. Shane Mohammed. Let me welcome Dr. Shane Mohammed. Dr. Shane Mohammed, welcome.
welcome.
Thank you so much.
Laughing instead of.
Go ahead, Tommy.
And then you made very good points.
Huh?
Karen, I'm listening carefully to what you are saying, and I'm thinking that we need holistic solutions for the entire Caribbean. And with that in mind, I'm thinking that we need to band all our troops together and get one umbrella to operate under, get one currency, and get our economies intertwined. I see you
Yeah, no, I agree with we have to band together, like how the EU has done, how United States of America has done, and how in Africa now they're really pushing with the Pan-African movement. I agree with that, but that I agree with. But Dr. Mohammed, I'm very happy to see you. But you know, Mr. Anselm LeBourne, I told you the constraints I had on coming on the show today.
No, I understand that. I didn't want to keep you.
I have to leave, not because
That's fine. That's fine. No,
Yes.
that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, so
I understand. Don't worry. We're busy. We all in and out.
Yeah, no, but he knows that it's more of a personal nature.
Yeah.
So I do have to leave, but I came because if Anselm calls, Karen answers. Right? You know, there's listener, ingratitude worse than witchcraft, okay?
Karen,
so I will go and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. It's always
Thank you.
appreciated.
Right.
Okay, take
Thank
care.
you. Have
Bye-bye.
a good day.
All right.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Okay, Karen.
Yeah.
How do I get out, though? I'm ready to come off.
You exit. Just
I
leave
get
the seat
it.
at the bottom. You see.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Shane, Dr. Mohammed, how are you?
I'm well. I'm a little bit on the academically exhausted a little bit, but I'm good.
Yeah. So we was just getting into, and I just had a last question here for her.
JB Harper, let me tell you something. That statement, okay, you're in trouble. You better hide that statement because I don't want nobody oh Lord. That's a bacchanal. You see what JB Harper want to do? Because a bacchanal has a reach to the people too.
Make Shane Prime Minister. Oh God, Shane. Shane, you have too much people. Hey, you have too much people. People just tell me, boy, I like Dr. Mohammed, boy. No, people just tell me that they said, boy, call him on the side.
Ansem.
Yeah.
But Ansem, is that I like Dr. Mohammed enough to push Dr. Mohammed in a direction that the people want or is requesting?
I don't know.
But Dr. Mohammed.
Go ahead, Tommy.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Mohammed, I want to get very serious and switch gears about what has happened in Rio Claro recently with the 13-year-old and the uncle. And I want to know really if we cannot find a way to make these things not happen again by being very stern in our judiciary.
I've been very vocal, and I have not shunned away from the fact that I don't care what people think, but I do believe that we have apparatus of the state available to us. And because as long as we have a legal apparatus of the state available to us, then it is within our right as citizens, as a government, as representatives of the people, that we use the apparatus of the state to ensure that things like this are met with a level of seriousness and a level of, I dare say, moral acrimony towards those who are committing these heinous crimes. And with that said, I am a very strong advocate of the death penalty. I make no apologies for that.
And in a case like when there's an accused and a victim being or witness being murdered, the death penalty should be used forthwith, and the accused should be guilty, hands down, no questions asked.
There's a lot of work that needs to be done with regard to the reforming of the criminal justice system. It began under the former administration led by Mrs. Prasad Visasa, and it was not given the opportunity to be completed in the way that it should have been completed. And this administration has diluted it and dissected it in a way that it should not have been done. It should have been done as a complete package before the parliament, which is exactly what she was doing under the Justice Ministry. I think, unfortunately, Trinidad and Tobago has regressed so much morally. We've become. I got a friend of mine sent me a note the other day, a couple of days ago. It was earlier this week, and it came down to she saying, and it was literally she's saying, and they say we're not a narco state. My fear is, if we don't stop playing hopscotch with politics, then we will not get the result that rational thinking Trinbagonians want. And when you ask them what that is that they want change. Now, the change that they want can come, but are they prepared to take the decisions that are necessary for the change to occur? And if the answer to the question and that to the latter question is in the negative, then God help us.
Well, I look at the crime in Trinidad and Tobago, and we like to give solutions in here, right? And I'm going to give a few solutions. But this is what I also look at, right? I look at the budget allocations from 22-23, and education and training at 7.4 billion, health at 6.8 billion, national security at 5.7, works and transport at 3.7, and public utilities at 2.8. So those were from the highest one.
So let's go with works and transport first.
Right. 3.7
$3.7 billion.
It was 171 million more than 21-22.
So $3.7 billion for works and transport.
Yeah.
And works and transport encompasses roadworks, rivers, drains, infrastructure, other infrastructures, whatnot, right? Mm-hmm. Yet in this country, we've had to have people protest for broken bridges up until 2 days ago. We've had people protest for land slippages. We've had villages protest for the lack of land slippages so badly that the villages became impassable and literally cut off from the rest of the country. We've had where flooding has been a problem, a consistent problem. There's been no real attempts made to dredge the watercourses. There has been no attempts to do any major projects to capture waste that is causing pollution, like plastics and that kind of thing, from coming down major watercourses. So really and truly, where the hell did the $3.7 billion go in the last financial year? And if you tell me that it was done, it was put towards the completion of the Point Fortin highway, I would say that is a damn lie, because as far as I am aware, Point Fortin highway falls under PSIP.
But let me make it, and these are all facts, eh? But let me even go back a little bit. In 21-22 was 3.5 billion. In 2021 was 2.9 billion. So think about it, right? It went from 2.9 to 3.5 to 3.7. So each year they had an increase in allocation. And I mean, I could understand that the total revenue was more, it increased from 41 billion in 2021 to 43 in 21-22 to 56 in 22-23. So you could kind of see that, people get a little more now. you know, You
But
got-
they didn't.
eh,
In truth and in fact, they didn't.
no, well,
That is, in fact,
boundaries.
the people in Grande, the people in the Sandy Grande area will tell you that the reason the Sandy Grande Regional Corporation swung 6-2 and almost 7-1 in favor of the UNC in 2023 is because it was a direct vote against Rohan Sinanan. And the people within the People's National Movement knows that for a fact, that the people of Grande have said that they will vote against the PNM because of Rohan Sinanan, because he's a native of Sandy Grande, and he has done absolutely nothing to help the people of Grande and environs to improve their road systems, their issue of flooding, their issue of surface runoff and drainage, and all of those things. Now, I happened to be in that area last week, well, this past Sunday, and there's work that is happening. But those works that are happening is at a local government level. So again, where is the money going? And is it that the money is not getting shared equitably across the length and breadth of Trinidad and Tobago?
Well,
Because
go ahead.
I will tell you, I was driving through Port of Spain. I was driving through Port of Spain, and I was driving on very newly paved roads. But if I take a drive to outside of Port of Spain, so you take a drive to South Trinidad, it's a lot of patchwork. And the further south you go, it is even worse. Now, there's a lot of things that can be said, and there's a lot of criticisms that I will level against the UNC. But when the UNC was in power, there was an equitable distribution of resources when it came to road works, when it came to, in fact, they call the UNC the box drain government. But it's those same box drains that helped alleviate flooding. It is those same box drains that gave jobs to persons who had very little to no skills. It is those very box drains that alleviated and prevented destructions of homes as a result of overflowing surface runoff. So let me tell you something. JB says is it 1%, but I keep having to say this one thing over and over. 99% is stronger than 1%. And until we recognize that, and that the 99% need to make up their mind in the direction that they want to go, and not let just a couple few dictate our direction, then we ain't going nowhere.
Dr. Mohammed, I have this here, right? And I just have this here, so when we having discussions, right? So here are some solutions to reduce the amount of crime in the country, right? One, reform the police service by addressing the dysfunctional systems of promotion, discipline, command and control, and corruption, right? So we could.
I will ask you this. Call me, for the lack of a better word, unpatriotic.
Nah, you're not unpatriotic, man. You're not unpatriotic.
But I'll tell you why I'm premising that statement before I finish. All right.
All right.
Call me unpatriotic. But the people of Trinidad and Tobago voted for the People's National Movement in 2020 by a majority of 19 to 22. The people of Trinidad and Tobago, well, the people of Tobago made a decision in 2021 and that they had enough. And in 2021 that they had enough, right? and therefore they were going in a different direction, and they went there vehemently and overwhelmingly.
Correct.
And say what you may want about the THA administration, they have a vision for Tobago. They have a plan for Tobago. There isn't a secretary that you cannot speak to, and I just recently had a conversation with the Secretary for Tourism, and I listened to her at the plenary session of the sitting of the chamber 2 days ago, and she took on Caribbean Airlines head on. And she's damn right to take on Caribbean Airlines head on. Because whilst Caribbean Airlines is busy expanding its monopoly across the region, and while Caribbean Airlines is charging us a pound and a crown to go to Miami and New York and Toronto and other places, and whilst the government of Trinidad and Tobago has not encouraged airline competition inside of Trinidad and Tobago, with the exception of very few, we have a national airline that does not fly to Tobago beyond 9:45 p.m. So there was a point in time, if I needed to get to Tobago for a meeting in the morning, I could have jumped on a 1 o'clock flight and gotten into Tobago at 2, get into my hotel and get up and go to my meeting at 7 o'clock and be out of there by 9. Now I have to go to the airport for catch the 5:45 flight, disrupt my day, jump into Tobago, hustle to get the car, go to the meeting, and then figure out what's next.
Mm-hmm.
I don't appreciate, and I will always say that I have a special likeness for Tobago, and I have a special likeness for the authenticity that Tobago provides to the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and the revenue generator that it is for both the economy of Tobago and the national economy of Trinidad and Tobago. What I have a problem with is the stymieing and the stagnation and the chokeholding of Tobago's governance, because Tobago is currently under the administration of a different political party. You see, that level of partisanship and that level of political pettiness, I don't care what nobody say. Even if the government gives Tobago 5% or 6.9% come Monday evening, they are still going to lose the 2 Tobago seats in 2025. Jump high, jump low, the cutters book. I make no apologies for saying that.
So wait.
There's no coming back from that.
But how does that address reform the police service by addressing dysfunctional systems of promotion, discipline?
Because I am saying to you,
yeah,
do not give advice to any political party.
No, I'm not giving advice.
Any of your solutions, any of those solutions to put in their manifesto.
No, I'm not giving them advice.
Because let me tell you something. Those solutions are valid. I'm not saying they're not valid, But I'm saying to you, though, that we have elected legislators. We have elected an executive that is supposed to be mature enough, innovative enough, experienced enough, creative enough, visioned enough, foresighted enough to know that we are in deep doo-doo, and they should be putting their minds together to take us out of the deep doo-doo that we are in.
No, I hear you, right? But I feel that as citizens of the country, you have to put solutions on the table. I mean, no, other people have to put solutions on the table, because, sometimes, Dr. Mohammed, some people are doing the best they can with what they know,
I can't help it if we put people in the party in the parliament that are dotish, and I can't help it if we elected. And I make no apologies for saying that either. I can't help it. And it is not my problem if Trinidad and Tobago elected us at a dance to sit in the Red House and to form the government.
All right. So listen
But
to me.
as far as I'm aware,
Mm.
JB made a good point. There may be 1%ers that are sitting in the government, but they may also have advisors. So you can't tell me that a minister may be a dunce, or may be inept, or maybe disconnected from the ground, so terribly so that he don't have advisors to say, boss, you're doing shit.
Well,
Because I know I had the authority at one point in time to level a minister and say, you're doing nonsense. In fact, I did walk into a minister's office one day and I asked him, I said, I have a question.
Mm.
He watched me. I said, are you the minister or the PS? So he rocked back to the chair. He must still don't like me because of that, but whoever, he couldn't fire me. I said, he said, what do you mean by that? I said, exactly what I just asked you. Are you the minister or are you the permanent secretary? I said, because you cannot be both. And whilst I understand you come from the public sector, and I respect the fact that you have public sector knowledge, you are in a political office, which requires you to carry out certain political directions and carry out a certain manifesto promises from a political perspective. But when I hear your former colleagues are saying, don't worry, they go handle you, I have to get concerned because I want to know whether you're just a paper pusher.
Well, I have heard, I don't live in Trinidad, but I have heard that most of the permanent secretaries run the ministries. That's what I've heard.
And they have a role, and they call that the dichotomy of public administration. And there is a role and responsibility for public officers, especially permanent secretaries, to manage the ministries. In fact, it is their role and responsibility to ensure the efficient management of the ministry, but the proper and efficient and execution of policies. The question arises, are the policies even sound policies? Are the policies even policies that will make an impact in the society of Trinidad and Tobago? Because there are some ministers that are working, and there are some ministers who are not.
But
Plain
could
and
a
simple.
permanent secretary undermine a minister?
If you have a dunce for a minister, yes.
Okay. Okay, let me finish read these other three here before we go for the break. That was now address the backlog of cases at the Forensic Science Center by providing more resources, training, technology, and staff. Transform
the former Ministry of Justice had a whole plan to build a brand new Forensic Science Center in central Trinidad to centralize forensic sciences. And we had hired forensic pathologists from India to come and do forensic pathology in Trinidad and Tobago. And as fast as governments change, man, pack up and run.
Okay, so there we go. Transform the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution into a leading-edge prosecutorial agency that can effectively handle complex and serious cases.
He has that authority. What he doesn't have is the resources financially.
Okay. Implement a public health model to prevent the transmissions of violence by interrupting conflicts, reducing risk, and changing norms.
That requires a cultural change. And that also is tied into the criminal justice system. And people must be able to realize that their action has a consequence, which right now they don't think.
But here's the big one for me. Develop a national poverty reduction strategy that involves the participation and consultation of various stakeholders, especially the marginalized and vulnerable groups.
I agree with that. And I have a perspective on that as well. But that's one of those that I will not talk about because I'm not going to give another man an idea to put into his manifesto. And I will say to you that I do have a holistic approach to that eradication of poverty.
So when are you trying to send me messages or you're trying to send me signals? Or you're trying to signal me? You know,
remember this?
Yeah. Blue Boy have a song. Is Blue Boy have a song about Signal? The Signal?
Right.
So
Signal,
somebody
yeah.
was Signal, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to tell me. But what it is, I am about country and I'm looking at what's going on. And I have a lot of these for all different things, And
But
I
Anthony,
see
you have to also understand,
mm,
and I understand your love for country. I
yeah.
understand your. I mean, we are all on the same page here with regard to love for country. But I am not going to participate in anything that is going to take us down the road that people get comfortable, that solutions are starting to happen, and therefore the government working because they're getting ideas from somewhere else. If you don't have the political will to see that the country is suffering, so take for example, one of my major issues that I have is Imber talking about growth and development, and the economy is growing, and the budget is going to, things are going getting better and all of these things. But yet you have three major oil companies walking out of Trinidad and Tobago after 50 years and going to set up their shop in Suriname and Guyana. Nobody talking about that. But we signed Dragon deal. So who the hell going and process the gas? You have Schlumberger, Halliburton, and Baker Hughes that has been sitting in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago as its regional headquarters, shifting to Guyana and Suriname, and not a damn dog bark, and not an eyebrow get raised, and nobody asks a question. And I know Darren said that I would blame the opposition, but the opposition has to take responsibility for asking very hard questions as well.
It comes
down to that.
As you said that, right? There was, and I don't know if these were the same companies, but there was this opinion piece.
That's exactly it.
Okay, so Dr. Shane, you see how we just do thing here, boy? We like we living in Trinidad.
That is actually posted on my page.
Oh, I get it from somebody sent that to me.
That article is actually posted on my page, and there are people commenting about it right now because the comment. Let me tell you what the comment. When I posted it, what the comment was that I posted with that. I think I said. Hold on, let me tell you. I said. Oh Lord. What did I say? I said something to seriously think about and where we stand regionally and internationally, but more so our domestic economic outlook as it pertains to these countries, these three companies walking out of Trinidad and Tobago. I am not comfortable with that, and I'm not the least bit happy about it. I don't think that should ever have happened. But what was done? There was no political will to keep those companies in Trinidad and Tobago. Plain and simple. If there's no political will to keep the companies in the countryside, then good, for God's sake, what the hell is staying here for? That is what it comes down to, dollars and cents. We are refining. We have Trinity that is exploring. They have deep water they just handed out. So then why Halliburton and their big oil shipping companies, right? They're gone to take a head, not only to move, they didn't only move, they moved the headquarters, man. What about the people? What about the people who are working in these organizations? They're transferring them to Guyana and Suriname too, no?
Well,
we were not even thinking about renewable energy. We're not even thinking about renewables. Renewables is at the bottom. Renewables are the position. For me, I'll tell you this. For me, I am at the stage where renewables is a policy. Renewables is a policy. We have a government sitting inside of there where renewables is an idea and a pilot project.
Right. As you say this, all right, we're going to go for a break right after this. I also have 5 innovative ideas that could be implemented in Trinidad and Tobago over the next 2 years. Number 1 is smart agriculture, and number 2 is renewable energy. I'll leave it right there. We're going to go for a quick station identification. It's in the village with the DAT Triplets at WZYE 95.9 FM. Stick and stay. We have with us political scientist Dr. Shane Mohammed, no stranger to in the village with the DAT Triplets.
You're listening to WZYE 95.9 FM. You are listening to WZYE 95.9 FM, the most influential name in Caribbean radio in the tri-state area. Broadcasting from East Orange, New Jersey, the most influential name in Caribbean radio, WZYE 95.9 FM.
It's in the village with the DAT Triplets on WZYE 95.9 FM. We come to you every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday from 7 to 10 p.m. That's Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday from 7 to 10 p.m. And don't forget, folks, we are on 91.9 on Monday from 7 to 9 p.m. So we stream on WZYE 95.9 FM, and we also stream on 91.9 in Trinidad and Tobago. So let me go to the chat. Hailey says, Trinidad and Tobago is now an example of what not to do when you get the oil money. Okay, Hailey. JB says, you're forgetting Repsol from Spain.
No, true.
Yeah. Rose says, I wonder how the pensioners and the disabled persons are living. All right. Rose also says, the pandemic and border closure, the cost of price of everything skyrocketed, but since everything is back to normal, no price on anything has dropped. The prices keep rising. God have mercy on us. Yeah, we was talking about food prices there in the budget. They might give something good might happen, man, with respect to food prices in the budget.
No, they don't have the will for that.
JB says, fellas, do you think we're getting an election budget or more austerity measures?
No austerity. I would think we get an austerity measure. I mean, austerity measures. It all depends on what you categorize as austerity budget measures. Hi, Rose. In terms of, you see, I will say what I said to I-95 today. I will say to you that when they asked me what I would like to see in the budget, I would like to see a budget that focuses on people and not just simply people from the perspective of we giving people stuff. I want to see, and I started to think from the perspective of people, the government treating with the budget that people get value for their money. And one of the things that we are suffering from in this country is price gouging. And there's no proper price regulatory infrastructure and price regulatory infrastructure and policy in place to effectively deal with how we protect citizens from price gouging. And people must be able to get value for their money when they go to the groceries especially. I am more concerned about people having food to eat and food to put on their tables for their children than I am concerned about anything else. If they come and don't drop the price of VAT, at least take the price off of VAT off of basic food items to give people more to put on their tables. And they do that, or they don't do that, but they come and they raise the price of electricity or they raise the price of water, then what you've done is you've made the country poorer.
But Dr. Mohammed,
people's purchasing power are less.
Why don't they cut the VAT in half to 6%? for example.
Kamla Prasad-Bissessar moved it from 15 to 0. And she still had money in the to do developmental projects. Basdev Pandey and Patrick Manning, as prime ministers in 95 and 97, told the international media that their strategy was learning to make do a lot with little. So you cannot come and tell me as a finance minister that there's a 2% growth in the economy, and you cannot use that 2% growth to trickle down into creating something to improve the lives and livelihood of people.
What if that 2% is make believe?
Exactly. It makes me now wonder where is the value for money going?
But Dr. Mohammed, maybe what they could do, instead of going from 12.5 to 0, that will be a drastic cut. They go to 6% in this budget, and next budget, then they go to 0.
And what in the same breath, they go from 597 for super to 697 for super and 797 for premium.
Now, well, go ahead, Tommy.
Now you address something that's been on my mind for a while: price gouging. The fact that soon as anybody in the citizenry, or should I say, when a raise is given anywhere, the prices go sky high, supposedly to offset the fact that there's more money. That shouldn't be, because the administration should have a policy in place to make sure that merchants cannot raise their prices at will.
Exactly. But and that takes political will. But when you are in the pockets of these merchants and you're dependent on these merchants to fund your political campaigns, then you can't do nothing about it. You see, it comes back down to, what a web we weave.
Even renewable will always be an idea until they figure out how to make money, until politicians figure out how to make money off of it.
Let me tell you something. We knew that there are companies that were set up ready for operations had they legalized marijuana in Trinidad and Tobago. And the big companies were going to be the persons to benefit from it, as opposed to the small fellas who are the people who are crafting the idea and putting forward the suggestions and solutions as to how we could make marijuana from illegal to legal to profitable and revenue generation.
Sure.
But
and actually, that was already my solutions to crime. Legalize marijuana.
Not just legalize, but monetize.
Yeah, no. Well,
yeah.
That comes with it. That comes with it.
Because the pharmaceuticals will buy your produce as long as you meet their specifications. So that's no.
But there's proof to show. So Fuad had this. He put out this one, right? And he said, if you use the Amsterdam model and you legalize prostitution according to the Amsterdam model, you automatically kill the human trafficking market. But people don't understand what he's saying. Oh, they only hear legalized prostitution. This man want immoral. What he thinking about? What is society going to? Oh God. God. How much brothels exist?
You generate more taxes, more revenue.
How much brothels already exist? How many Venezuelans and Colombians and whatever else in a bar somewhere, dancing somewhere, and they know about it? Oh God, why are we behaving like if we don't know where these things are? But Trinidadians need to understand to stop with the damn hypocrisy and face reality. If you want to move the country forward and you want changes, then we have to take into consideration that Trinidad and Tobago, more Trinidad than Tobago, is a transshipment port of very active illegal activities that we are not in control of. We are allowing certain things to happen and turning a blind eye.
Because there is benefit and profits from the underground economy.
And you have to kill the underground economy. Trinidad and Tobago is too small to have allowed this thing to run away so far.
The GDP of the underground economy may be greater than the GDP of the real economy.
But as you say that,
who is benefiting?
But as you say that, something that they address is transfer pricing, because we could be losing significant, well, the government can be losing significant amount of money because of transfer pricing. I mean, based on my research, it says the country has no transfer pricing regulations. Companies may manipulate their income by conducting transactions that are not at arm's length. You understand? So,
you know, it is this prime minister that said that he cannot get in. This prime minister did say that he cannot get into the affairs of the private sector, right?
And he also said, make the rich richer. They're gonna.
So if you are the government and if you are in charge and you are responsible for creating laws and policies, then what is your real purpose then in terms of from a governance perspective? What is your real purpose?
Make the rich richer. They will help the poor.
Exactly. When you pick up the papers today and you see that a 13-year-old was shot at point blank range because she was identifying her abuser, nobody raised an eyebrow.
That made my skin crawl.
So you telling me that a child who is getting abused cannot stand up and say, look what happening to me by X and Y, because she have another day to live. That's how easy it has gotten in this country. And that has not raised a red flag.
And the child was threatened that if she went to the officials, she'd be killed. She told she stated to the officials what was said to her, so they have record of it all. And guess what? The perpetrator did it because they think they can get away with it. But like I said, if it was mandatory that they get the death penalty and that they be deemed guilty of the crime, murder that is, everything will change.
You see, we still have lawyers in this country that believe in human rights.
Yeah, but
we still have young upcoming lawyers who are fighting for human rights and believe that but if before we go down the road of human rights, let us protect the human rights of the innocent first and then deal with everybody else after.
That's human rights.
That is human rights.
You see, what I'm trying to say is that these issues, and this isn't the first country in the world that has these problems. The United States have had these problems at one time, and how did they deal with it? Head on. You kill a victim or a witness.
But you still have states, Tommy, in the United States of America that will put you on the electric chair.
You're automatically guilty of murder.
Right? There are still states in the United States of America that will put you under lethal injection.
But guys, based on research, and let me read
I know you coming with that, I was waiting for you, I just sit down here waiting for you to come with that,
Oh God! Well, that's why we have real discussions here. You understand? We have real discussions, right?
I don't want to hear about that,
Because listen to this. Nobody had to hear this.
Go ahead.
The question of whether the death penalty deters crime is a contentious one. According to a report by the National Academy of Sciences, there is no credible evidence that the death penalty deters homicide. However, some proponents of the death penalty argue that it serves as a deterrent to serious crime. I have always said that the death penalty is not considered a deterrent with respect to homicides. And as a matter of fact, in Texas, right, where they have the death penalty, right, they have more homicide. They used to have more homicide in Texas than any other place across the state.
Anselm, if the perpetrator thinks that his life depends on the victim life being preserved or witness life being preserved, do you think that the witness or the victim will die?
The perpetrator not thinking about that.
Well, then we need to make him think about it.
That's what we need to...
He not thinking of. Listen. I rather you have some other law saying you go chop off your hand or chop off your foot or chop off something. Now that is something different when you murder someone. But I just don't understand. I've always at this point from a long time ago that the death penalty is not considered to be a deterrent to crime.
I want to disagree.
I believe that it is not a deterrent of crime based on cultural and sociological frameworks. If
all I could read is the facts. You know?
I want people to take those facts that you just read and measure it. It has to have measurables, and the practical measurables is to measure it against sociological cultures.
There are societies that do just that, and they get the right results.
Look at Saudi Arabia, as you rightfully say, Tommy. Anthem. You know, if you thief something and they catch you, they're going to chop off your hand in public, or they will mash up your hand in public. You know, if you rape somebody, they will castrate you in public. You know, and what is the crime rate in the Middle East?
No, it's
the crime rate in the Middle East is maybe the lowest it probably have around the world. But the only thing they have not figured out how to deal with yet is how to reduce the terrorist rate. And the terrorist rate is linked directly to religious radicalism. And murder and homicide is totally separate and apart from religious fanaticism. So, who doing the castration? What do you mean who doing the castration? As in which country? If you rape somebody, chop it off. Or if you don't want to chop it off, there's enough medical experts that will tell you how to kill it. What better to have a man walking around in public knowing that it will never, not even the Lord will not be able to come and help you like he helped Lazarus.
Well, listen to this, right? The most safest countries in the world are Qatar, Kuwait, the UAE, Oman, and Jordan. The most dangerous
Sharia law.
The most dangerous are Syria, Yemen, Iraq, Libya, and Sudan. And I can see from the ones that are most dangerous is the ones that are considered to be most corrupted as well.
Correct.
So if you look
and they also are the corruption is one, and there was another one I was going to tell you. Terrorists. They're very much entrenched in terrorism.
Fanaticism.
Yes.
So I think when we look at that's why Dr. Mohammed, they need to have more of these type of discussions on radio and thing in Trinidad and Tobago.
I said one day I posted on Facebook Sharia law. And a former minister got very alarmed by the fact that I said Sharia law. And the question was asked is, are you serious? And I said, of course I'm serious. unless we do not show a strong arm of the state as it pertains to people doing wrong, then we are not serious, because we are going to continue complaining about crime and criminality and robberies and home invasions and murders and rapes and victimization. And I mean, we are at the point where victims are murdered for being is it okay? Is it okay for victims to be murdered because they blow a whistle on someone who committed a moral and an illegal crime against a child?
But criminality is rampant in every phase and every aspect of life in Trinidad and Tobago. I was thinking earlier about prettier larceny on farmers' crops. How much losses farmers
Yes,
do the prettier larceny?
yes. And farmers have said to me that they have approached the government with regard to dealing with pretty larceny, and nothing has been done to any extent.
Now it's important to note, right? Just for our listeners and the people in the chat. Sharia law categorizes all human action into 5 distinctive categories: obligatory, recommended, permitted, discouraged, and forbidden. Sharia law has been a subject of controversy in recent years. Some argue that it's compatible with democracy, human rights, freedom of thought, women's rights, and banking. Others argue that it's incompatible with these values and can be used to justify human rights abuses. I mean, I do have a problem with the distinctive categories, because
I think the distinctive categories even makes it even more legitimate in Trinidad and Tobago.
because I think what this is, to me, this sound like a more of a utilitarian approach where you are telling people, you ain't telling people, well, you go there, and then people might say, man, I ain't gonna worry about that. But if you have different categories, you do something, I chopping off your right hand. You do something else, I chop off your left hand. You do something else, I chop off your right foot. You do something else, I chop off your left foot. And we going in stages. So a person know what to think about, boy. Now listen, if you chop off the person right hand, the person go think, no, yet because something actually happened to you. Something actually happened. And you had to think, boy, you know what, boy? I don't know. I think I got to stop this type of behavior, right? But if you want to go all the way up to the top and tell a person, you do this is what will happen. Now people ain't gonna think about that. That's why when you look at these Middle Eastern countries, you could see the difference, because a person is thinking, no, boy, boy, I chop off my hand, boy. You know what I mean? Chop off my next hand, boy. So that is the way how I'm looking at it. And I think that the death penalty is like way at the top. And a person in going into something and saying, boy, if I kill that person, I go get the death penalty. But a person can be thinking of these different levels of punishment. When we talk about the 5 different categories, so that's just my thinking. Kapisa said deterrence theory, CJ 101. I mean,
what is it? Yeah, no, but
what is that? What is that, Kapisa? Let me see what that is. He does pop up something sometime that people don't even know. You just had to use Google 1, 2, 3, and 4. For him.
listen. Make it make sense is what I just have to say. Make it make sense. Make it make sense, right? You know what I have an issue with? Don't tell me deterrence theory CJ 101 and do not explain it to for everybody else in the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, okay, here it is. Deterrence theory. Deterrence theory is a criminological theory that suggests that the threat of punishment can deter people from committing crimes. According to this theory, people are rational and will weigh the cost and benefits of committing a crime before deciding whether or not to do so. If the perceived cost of committing a crime outweigh the benefits, then the person is less likely to commit the crime. Deterrence theory has been applied to various areas of criminal justice, including policing, sentencing, and corrections. However, there are some debates over the effectiveness of deterrence as a crime prevention strategy. Some studies have found that deterrence can be an effective way to prevent crime, while others have found little evidence to support this claim. It is important to note that deterrence theory assumes that people are rational and they have complete information about the potential costs and benefits of their action. However, in reality, people may not always act rationally, or listen to this part, or have complete information about the consequences of their actions. So that's what I'm saying. If people knows, if you go on a drive across the country for people to know, boss, you're going to a man's store, you thief something, you might lose our left finger. You know, you might lose our middle finger. We go start with one finger. You understand? You might lose our left finger. A man go say, you repeat, right? Is a repeat offender, you go lose the left hand. I mean, it appears that we have come to that in Trinidad and Tobago because.
But you see, we look down on countries. Look at the safest countries you just called, right? We look down at those countries and we think twice about going to those countries because we know that the laws there are very strict. But when you look at the metropolis that they have built, for example, look at, for example, when they went to Qatar for World Cup. Look at the kind of infrastructure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Look at the kind of infrastructure and the kind of production and productivity and transformation that is happening. I saw a picture of Kuwait in the 1970s and then Kuwait today, and it is an amazing, massive, macro level of growth and development that has taken place. And then they will have those that will say, well, you're talking about the countries that are oil rich. Hello. The last time the last time I checked, we're not oil poor, you know. We're just oil dotish.
Oil corrupt.
I think more oil dotish than oil corrupt, because we've allowed ourselves to get so comfortable that we only want to see one revenue stream. But again, I blame that on one prime minister because he didn't see the value in keeping the agrarian system. Whereas, look at Guyana.
They have us to learn from. They have us to learn from, you know, because if they didn't have us to learn from, they probably would have made the same mistakes we made.
Listen, we should have never stopped our agrarian system, and we should have run the agrarian system together with the industrialization, because we were doing well.
Hindsight is 20/20, you know.
Which he had none. But that is why his good friend Mr. Imbert said he went mad before he died. Before he lost the general election in 2010. But
you know something, as we talk about that, there is a correlation between the countries that are most free and some countries that are socialist and some countries that are least corrupt. So here's the 10 top countries that are most free. Switzerland is number 1, New Zealand is 2, Denmark is 3, Estonia is 4, Ireland is 5, Finland is 6, Canada is number 7, Australia is 8, Sweden is 9, and Luxembourg is 10. And I have a kid in my class from Sweden, and he talks about the things that go on in Sweden. Is like, you know, there is Sweden has a system where people will call other people and tell them about the greatness of Sweden, how great Sweden is as a place, and tell them all the good things about Sweden. Do we have any people calling? And you know, people go call and tell you about you going to Trinidad, you mad or you better go inside.
Make sure you have your purse. Don't walk with too much money, you know.
Yeah,
and don't label your Don't label your suitcase with your name and your address.
Yeah,
No
yeah.
straight for nobody to see, you know.
Boy,
Because they
go
go
inside
back
by
to
6.
home.
Go inside by
Correct.
6 o'clock, boy.
Correct.
Understand?
Correct.
Don't wear no
Correct.
chain, you know. Don't.
Don't wear no gold chain and no band and thing, you know. Yeah, go in there to feel your fancy. That is what you. Yes. But you know what? The difference is what people are calling to say about Sweden is the truth. And what we telling people about Trinidad is also the truth.
Yeah, but they want to enhance their country. You know what I mean? And I guess we just not there. You know what I mean?
No, no, we not. It's not that we're not there, you know, answer. We are there. We know what we want. We know what we want for the country. We don't have the people and the mechanisms in place to make it happen. And it's not that Trinidad cannot be like Luxembourg and Sweden and all that. Today, I was conducting a class about, my class today was focused on people discussing the Sustainable Development Goals. And I was showing them where Trinidad and Tobago is ranked 114th, 114 out of 166 of the 166 countries in the United Nations that have signed on to the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. Only to understand that Trinidad and Tobago has only achieved one of those Sustainable Development Goals, which is poverty reduction. Our current rate of poverty in Trinidad and Tobago is 4.3%. 4.3%, which is equivalent to all the population of Tobago. However, the rate of poverty in Singapore is 10%. However, their population is 5.4 million people. 10% of that 5.4 million people is half of Trinidad and Tobago's population.
But don't start me with the poverty thing, eh? Those two, because I've been researching them poverty statistics, and it you know, we have some work that we have to get done. We just have some
We
work.
have to get listen, we have for too long allowed the Ministry of Social Development to become the Ministry of Social Dependency. We have for too long given men fishes and taught them to fish through URP and CPEP. All because we want to keep a voting bank. The day the voting bank ceased to exist and men learn how to fish rather than depending on getting a fish, this country could be a different place. Eh?
Well, we have the budget coming up on Monday, and I am hoping and praying that this is a people-centered budget,
Me too.
and finally the people of, because I think that the economy in Trinidad and Tobago is moving in the right direction, and that they will give some of it back to the people.
We would hope.
You know, I want to hope that they will give something back to the people.
We would hope. It's
You know,
been 8 years and the people of Trinidad and Tobago has not received anything in terms of goodwill from this government. Right?
and I think one important thing that the government can do is to sort of put an emphasis on us becoming more self-reliant on food production.
Agreed.
You know, because
Again today that was a whole discussion that I had with my class about food security and how we have people coming out of the university faculty of food and agriculture, and they have the expertise, they have the theoretical and the technological teaching as to how we can enhance gardening and farming in this country, and they're not using it. There's nothing that no system again. Let me tell you something. We are a law, regulation, policy country. Unless there's no law, no policy, no framework, no structure, no initiative, no process to guide and to dictate, nothing going to happen.
you think in this budget there will be anything to help with the limited access with respect, to foreign exchange? I think anything will be in the budget with respect
No,
to that.
because he said the central bank released I don't know how many millions of US dollars into foreign. They released certain amount of money into the to John public to help with the foreign exchange. Let me tell you something. Why are we not getting the foreign exchange? Because we are not getting investment. Foreign exchange comes from foreign investment. Who is investing in Trinidad and Tobago? Where is the FDIs?
I know exactly what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I think the way I mean I don't know. I don't know. I just feel that sometimes that we stuck in a time warp. We're in a time warp, and the ideas. I don't see the innovative ideas that are happening in Trinidad and Tobago. And I mean I would like to see some innovative ideas put forward, in order to diversify the economy.
Capisa said too dangerous to eat green leafy vegetables in Trinidad. Is what you eating, brother? Is what green leafy vegetables you're eating? No, but
I
seriously
want to
though,
know if the sugarcane factory was profitable.
it was. Listen, it could have been profitable. It could have been profitable. There needed to be the political will to restructure it and to make it profitable, because it had outgrown the present time period in which it existed. There needed to be new processes, new procedures. I mean, oh God,
Upgrades.
yes, the business. There needed to be a new business model to carry it into the 21st century.
True.
Right?
How we restructure or how we resolve issues is shut down.
Shut down. Correct. I will never say it is too expensive to reinvigorate the sugar industry. I think we just need to have the political will and the investment. And with the right combination of political will and investment, and let people understand the return of their investment into the creation and the reconstruction of a sugar factory. And it don't have to be no massive sugar factory. We could start at a domestic level, and then it gradually ease back out into exportation. But come on, man.
Look, listen, that has to be privatized, though. It has to be private. No more state hands in that. Because, when state hands are in, it becomes...
I think it could be the best way to secure it and for it to not be exploited is for it to be a public-private partnership.
I would make it 100% private.
I cannot say I will make it 100% private until we have price regulation in place. And there also needs to be a certain level of profit coming back directly to the people, because you're going to be sugarcane fields do exist highly. They exist in very deep parts of Trinidad, and there are small mills that are making. Oh God! How you think Angostura functioning from imported cane?
No, you were saying price regs go in place if they're privatized, but to let them compete with the open market.
You can compete with the open market, but I want to see that the people that are contributing to the farmer, to the sugar, to the factory
industry, yeah.
To the factory itself, right? The people who are contributing to the factory, who are the farmers, they must benefit not as raw material producers, but as serious, as real stakeholders, as significant stakeholders in the success of the thing. Because if we use the core semi-periphery model, what happens is that the semi-periphery creates the raw material, sends it to the core manufactures it and sends it back at a higher price to the same people that they bought it from cheaper. I am saying we need to level the playing field so that we give people value for their money in terms of what they spend and the labor that they put out in order to grow the sugar industry.
You know, I had an associate who worked for the sugar industry in Trinidad and Tobago. He said part of the devastation of their business was the fact that the farmers robbed the business by getting paid for goods that they didn't supply.
Deliver. Yeah. 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 So it has to be very, very, it also must have some level of controls. I mean, there was a lot that needed to be done to fix the system. And at the end of the day, all systems in Trinidad and Tobago at the point of needing fixing, right? Every single sector. You call a sector, there's need to fix something, right? Public sector, private sector, criminal justice system, social services sector, you name it. Health sector. There is need for it to be improved. There is no political will. And as long as you don't have their political will, then we are not going to go anywhere.
Well,
What I said, the political will is to make sure the supporters get work in that particular whatever industry it is.
Correct. Correct. There are going to be laborers. There has to be a space and a place for everybody. There must be you know, what we lack in this country is effective political communication, and I keep saying that ever so often that I'm on this program, that there needs to be a dialogue, Mia Motley style, with the people of Trinidad and Tobago, from any political leader / prime minister, so that everybody at every level from ground come up understands where we going, what we doing, why we doing it, how we doing it. It's all about taking governance from a business level, you know. The only thing I could say is that we could only now hope that as time passes and we get closer to 2025, people start realizing, well, we do have to make a shift.
Well, I think that there is some diversification coming to Trinidad and Tobago, and here it is. Take a listen to this.
And the government of Trinidad and Tobago has identified the local fashion industry as a catalyst for economic diversification, employment creation, and foreign exchange generation. And on Thursday, Minister of Trade and Industry, Paula Gopi-Skoon, distributed 50 Lotto system packages to participants of the Jimmy Abood pattern-making sewing class held earlier this year. The donation of the pattern-making kit to local tailors and seamstresses is aimed at contributing to business growth, employment creation, and revenue generation in this sector. Minister Gopi-Skoon says she saw the economic advantage in making the kits available for the participants of the pattern-making sewing class.
You could probably find yourself sharpening your skills where you could probably do sewing and pattern making and sewing from your home. Or you could find yourself become a little bit more skilled so that you can join a garment factory, a garment establishment. Or it may just be that you can now begin to sew things for your own family and thus save some money as well.
Can I say something?
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead.
You may find yourself behind the wheel of a large automobile. You may find yourself living in a shut-down shop. You may say to yourself, how did I get here?
That's a song, right? Is that a song?
That's right.
That's a song, yeah. I remember
That's a song. That's a song.
That's a song.
And I refer to that specifically for a reason.
And what's the reason?
You may find yourself, those were the key words from that speech.
Tell me what you're trying to say. Say what you want to say now, man.
50 packages, and that is diversification.
Boy, you had to start somewhere, Dr. Mohammed. Come on now.
No. You see, that is a problem. You know, we've become so accustomed to mediocrity that we like everything in piecemeal.
And Anselm, you at the beginning of the show, that's exactly what you played. Remember that?
Yeah, of course I
Remember
remember.
that? Remember what you play every time we start the show?
Yes, I remember that. I remember it. Yes, I remember it. Yeah.
Okay.
Diversification by giving people 50 packages that they could learn how to sharpen up their skills, right? That is diversification. But we have special economic zones that have warehouses that empty. You could join a garment factory, she said.
Yep, you could work from home.
Work from home. You could save some money by sewing for your own family. And then here I say entrepreneurship, right?
You may find yourself doing this. You may find yourself doing that. You may find yourself doing the other thing. You may
I
find
would
yourself.
love to tell Paula she should find herself back home on a rocking chair and mind her grandchildren. Because
Not too
I
harsh.
honestly thought that Paula was one of those people who could have been a little more innovative. She's failed miserably. She's just kept the status quo. She's collected a salary and done what needs to be done and nothing more.
Let me repeat something. There are many people doing the best they can with what they know.
Yes, the same way she grabbed onto Obama and couldn't let him go when she was Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Yeah, that's all I can say. You know, you're doing the best.
And then when I tell you the government don't see vex.
Oh God. Well,
I thought they said it had a government named DUNC.
It have a government that this government could go into two categories. This government, DONESEE, they don't see. They can't see no more. There's no going forward. And there's also this government is also there was a government that was DUNC, DUNCY, right? And it looks like history is repeating itself because this government is the same DUNCY.
One and the same.
Exactly. Born out of the same.
So what is the solution?
Yeah, the solution. This is the solution. Listen to this.
Trinidad and Tobago aims to maintain an active upstream sector as it is imperative to our future's sustainability and energy security.
Energy Minister Stuart Young speaking during the ceremony at the Hyatt Regency Hotel in Port of Spain on Tuesday for the signing of new deepwater exploration contracts between the Energy Ministry and two multinational crude oil and natural gas exploration companies known in the business as upstream companies. While the media were not invited to the event, TV6 News requested and received a video of an excerpt of the Energy Minister's speech.
It's my pleasure to announce the signing of the negotiated deepwater production sharing contracts for blocks 25A, 25B, and 27 to a consortium comprising BP Exploration Operating Company Limited and BG International Limited. Our arrival at this point is a testimony to the good faith by all parties and commitment to the future of our country's energy sector, a significant component which lies in the deep water environment.
BG was acquired by Shell plc in 2016. In the 2021-2022 deepwater bid round for oil and gas exploration in Trinidad and Tobago, BP and Shell joined forces to bid for only 4 of the 17 offshore bids. This has occurred as two of Trinidad and Tobago's fellow CARICOM member states, Guyana and Suriname, are experiencing oil and natural gas booms. Minister Young pointed out how important production sharing contracts are for Trinidad and Tobago, which has been seeking to make a turnaround in the decline in the production of crude oil and natural gas in the past few years.
It is no secret that levels of petroleum production in the country are not where we would like them to be. As such, continued exploration on land, shallow water, and particularly in the country's deep water province is the key to maintaining our world-class energy sector.
That sector includes plants in the Point Lisas industrial estate that produce downstream gas products such as ammonia, methanol, and urea, and the Atlantic liquefied natural gas plant in Point Fortin, which are all key sources of energy export revenue for Trinidad and Tobago.
We have had significant exploration in both the onshore and shallow water provinces, but there's a large area of our deep water province that is unexplored. This will be addressed through bid rounds. The positive effects on reserve replacement will result in an increased upstream activity, which then boosts investors' confidence in the country's ability to pursue downstream projects.
BP and Shell announced in a joint statement that they are looking forward to the exploration of Trinidad and Tobago's deepwater acreage following the award of the 3 deepwater blocks by the government on Tuesday. In their joint statement, BP and Shell said that a bid for Block 23B was also submitted and dialogue between the joint venture and the Ministry of Energy remains ongoing. Jewel Brown, TV6 News.
Okay.
So so when we explore and we refine, how are we going to refine?
You don't have a refinery no more?
So what the hell he doing?
Well, you gotta go some other place and refine it and bring it back.
Which is shit. Because we are in the same boat as Guyana. When we have the abilities right here in Trinidad and the capabilities right here in Trinidad, you were telling me we have so much business minds that we can put together a team to restart that refinery and to get people to come here and refine their oil, and St. Croix could do it after 7 years. What you going to send people to dig into deep water exploration for? To look for gas, okay, and you're going to send that gas to LNG, all right, and you're going to use the gas for downstream in Point Lisas, all right. But when you find oil, what the hell are you going to do with it?
Sell it crude.
And make less money.
But I think upstream is more important because we have to know what are these strategies for upstream. You know? Yeah. So in order for it to boost our production, that's what I would think.
I mean
I'm not an energy expert, but
right, making sense.
Why are we not refining our own oil? Why are we not putting focus on refining our own oil when the price of refined oil is more than crude?
Because we have mothballed our refinery.
Because we are governed by a bunch of dunce.
Oh God.
Who have absolutely no sense of innovation. Nothing that Stuart has said has given me any confidence in his ability to effectively represent Trinidad and Tobago as an international negotiator.
You know, you say that on 95.5?
Yes.
Oh God.
And then
no, Dr. Mohammed, no, you're telling untruth. You see that?
Yeah, they don't like me. But I don't go on I-95 to be liked, right?
Okay.
I don't go on an I-95 to be liked. I don't ask. I don't wish to be liked because I talk my mind.
But if they go put you on CNC3 and anything, you gotta they go get your script before you go in.
No. If they put me on CNC3, then I may have to submit my CV again.
Yeah. Okay. So Rose, Kapiza, Ken John, Hailey, Nathaniel, welcome. Darren, whichever one is you, whether it's Kapiza, whether it's Arjun, whether it's Captain, whichever one of you guys, just put closing comments in each. Whichever one of you guys want to put it, just put the closing comment. All right? It doesn't matter which one. Or they could fight amongst each other to see which one want to put it.
Who get the first place tonight?
Yeah. Whoever get Nadia, put closing comments in the chat. I see Victoria tonight, boy. I see Victoria tonight. Victoria, where you going, boy?
You went dancing.
Who's that? JB.
Mm-hmm.
Who's that?
I said Victoria went out dancing tonight.
Victoria went dancing. And JB Harper, yeah, all the put closing comments in the chat. So we are looking forward to where you gonna be, Shane? Where you gonna be Monday? You on which one Monday? You ain't sure yet?
I don't think I'm. No, to be honest with you, I think to be fair to everybody, I think Monday is a night for economists.
You're in class.
I'm in class. Yeah. Unless they call me to tell me something urgent, to tell me that they need me for something. But I think Monday night especially is for the economists, and not for the political scientists. The political scientists could come after, because we need time to study, the where it trickled down to them. They have to discuss the numbers and the revenue and the expenditure. That night is for them. I don't think that is where we are. The politics of the economy can come after.
And what type of budget, if this is a people-centered budget, if people
I think Imbert is more, his legacy is not towards being really people-centered. What Imbert's legacy as a Minister of Finance is that he wants to be able to bring it closer to being a balanced budget than anything else. So whatever it takes to close the gap between the deficit and the surplus, to bring it at least to a balanced budget, if that is Imbert's legacy in 2023, 2024, he will beat his chest from now to 2025. So I am looking to see how much he has used, what is the value of the budget, one, and I want to see what he has pegged the price of oil and gas to this year. And that is what I want to see as well.
Well, last year it was $95 a barrel, and gas price per MMBTU was $6.
Was $6, which was pretty high, right? Yeah. Which is one of the highest ever we've had. And I'm waiting to see what is the what I would like to hear from him is how successful were we in gaining revenues with that gas price at $6 per MMBTU, because I thought it was liberally very high. CPT asking me, Shane, you ever look at a clock? Work orange? I don't understand.
You know that's captain, right? I captain.
As a captain.
I captain or no? Because it is either captain, Kapiza, Arjun, or I don't know what it's
Alvin.
Alvin,
yeah, you have Alvin too. So he just come and go, he's schizophrenic. So it depends on
Thank you, Rose. But he talking about, I take it his question has to do something with him supporting the PEP.
No. He's not. He's at UNC.
Oh, he's at UNC.
Yeah.
But the days for orange gone, though, he should be talking about yellow.
Highly.
Highly's PEP, okay. Highly say maybe it's time for a history revolution like Burkina Faso. Maybe the country needs to remove government by force. Highly, I will not
endorse that.
Yeah, we endorse the revolution.
No. I am all about democracy and how we go about using our brain to inform where we put the X next to by using our fingers and our hands. Not
economic revolution, yes. Not
economic revolution, yes. Not political revolution.
No, not that type of revolution. Stick and stay. We're going to go for a quick station identification. It's in the village with the DAT Triplets at WZYE 95.9 FM. We'll be right back after this short message.
You're listening to WZYE 95.9 FM. You are listening to WZYE 95.9 FM, the most influential name in Caribbean radio in the tri-state area. Broadcasting from East Orange, New Jersey, the most influential name in Caribbean radio. WZYE 95.9 FM.
It's in the village to the DAT Triplets on WZYE 95.9 FM. We come to every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday from 7 to 10 p.m. That's 7 to 10 p.m. Remember, folks, don't forget, log in on Monday. We'll be right here again and streaming live on 91.9 FM in Trinidad. Dr. Shane Mohammed, any closing words? Dr. Shane, we always want to thank you, for coming in. And, you are one of those individuals who have actually made this program, a kind of must-see program because of all the information that's being brought to the people that they may not get elsewhere if they don't look at other stations in Trinidad and Tobago, and especially if you're in the diaspora. So we do appreciate you very much for that. Any closing words?
I appreciate the invitations that you all send. To be honest with you, I will continue to reiterate that I use every and any platform that I'm given for the purpose of educating our people, including those in the diaspora, about the importance for us to change our behaviors as it pertains to our voting patterns and political allegiances, because right now we are in dire need for something different and something new, and we are in need to take the ship in a different direction. And the only way we could take the ship in a different direction is if we start thinking differently. And I really hope on Monday that Imbert does something that is at least generous or empathetic to those most vulnerable in our society.
Thank you very much, Dr.
Thanks, Dr. Mohammed.
Thank you for having me all.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.
All right.
Okay, Tommy, there you have it. Let me give my closing comment, Tommy. The world is changed by your example, not by your opinion. The world is changed by your example, not by your opinion. From where I sit, this is it. The clock on the wall, so that's all I like to say, but I've got to go. Remember, hard work beats talent when talent does not work hard. And for every 60 seconds of anger, you lose 1 minute of happiness. See you. Same WZYE time, same WZYE channel. Later. Go ahead, Tommy.
The Dalai Lama says, reason well from the beginning, and then there will be never any need to look back with confusion and doubt. Like I always say, you have to become the change you want to see. You, that man in the mirror. However, if you look in that mirror and you don't like what you see, don't blame the mirror. Always never look down on a person unless you are giving them a hand up. Love you all. Be safe till our next session.
Thank you, Tommy.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Hailey says, Shane, you're not the first to say such. Yet here we are, 2025 PNM have half the country support. Well, you all have an idea. Eugene says, closing comments, I disagreed with what most of Dr. Mohammed comments. Okay?
You have the right.
Right? Ken John says, the country gone through too much bloodshed all over Miss Rose, Stephen murders, and killings and robberies. Okay?
Over Miss Rose.
Rose says, good night, Ken. Eileen said, I didn't ask for an endorsement. Ken John says, good night, be safe. Miss Rose, Celestine, God bless. You already read Hailey comment. Rose says, always like to have Dr. Mohammed in here. Good night, be safe, everyone. God bless. Capiza says walls to reduce crime, make cache of weapons for criminals to find and use in their Clockwork Orange. Okay. All right. Right. That's it, folks. We're gonna go out and go to Karina shift. Okay, folks. See you Monday. Later.
We gotta save it. Oh yeah, my sweet TNT. Oh yeah. We used to sing sweet, sweet Trinidad. To leave here, boy, you must be mad. This is the land of milk and honey, rum and coke and easy money. While those birds as we were singing, alarm bells kept on ringing. Pundits on each pulpit saying, "Oh, heart and our soul decaying." Suddenly we wake up to a living nightmare, not bliss while electorals act. How did we ever come to this? But so long we hear it. You got to stand up and be counted. But daily we're intimidated. Every day our next to witness silence while we recoil from the violence. In our land there is a crisis. Broke police, unruly ISIS, while sweet revenge gangs exacting. Police commissioner still acting Trinbago. It's high time we separate the goat from the sheep. Tell them talk is cheap. We're caught in the world when we have to reap. While them police busy playing hide and seek. We're facing the world when we had to reap. Hey, oh yeah, oh. Save our land, Trinidad and Tobago. Oh yeah, oh yeah. In our schools, kids getting on. We're fighting, making porn. Our school girls, you won't believe. Live MMA, they pulling weave. Check the vibes, they're living by. Dance all slackness, get rich or die. Alkaline to Movado. Mention maestro, they don't know. No morals, no ethics. There is a centrifugal black hole. Lord, we must move quick to wake their conscience and save their soul. So long we've been hearing evil triumphs when good men do nothing. No triggers pump while words be frotting, and while church attendance real low. Protest back plus them casino, while black market prices haggling. Through a port, big guns they smuggling. Spanish women are hot like their music. Saucy salsa, human traffic, Trinbago. We can't wait. The devil making hay while we sleep. Tell them talk is cheap. We're caught in the world when we have to reap. While we look on them as more mothers who weep. We're in the world when we had to reap. Oh yeah. Oh no. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, Now the nation's soul has been revealed. How they find Shannon Banfield. Busy street, yes, in our city. Killed by beasts who show no pity. Now there's fear and trepidation. What is happening to our nation? So I pray this one infraction will propel us into action. Trinbago, the time is now. We have to take our country back while these monsters flow. We cannot run from their attack. That is why